From pretty much the present, this is your host, Adam Graham, bringing you a week of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2012. Because these podcasts are many years old, any offers or information included in the podcast may not be valid unless they're currently reflected on our Great Detectives of Old Time Radio website at greatdetectives.net. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Give us a call, 208-991-4783, and become one of our friends over on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Well, this episode is brought to you by the support of our listeners. Thank you so much for your financial support. I've also mentioned that our sound is done by Andrew Rhines, whose podcast is the OTRWesterns.com, the Old Time Radio Westerns podcast. And I wanted to mention a couple of the programming things that Andrew's done over there at OTRWesterns.com. First, he's added Fort Laramie. It's a series I'm kind of curious about because it starred Raymond Burr, which would make it interesting to listen to. And the other series that he launched is Cavalcade of America. And this is really kind of a stretch for a Western show because it deals with a lot of aspects of American history that have nothing to do with the West. It does deal very strongly with American history. And Cavalcade of America is one of my favorite shows. It's one of those underrated programs that doesn't get nearly enough credit and attention. Old-time radio researchers produced a fantastic set with audio mostly in pretty good condition. It's not received near the attention that it should. So I'm really glad for Andrew doing this because the Cavalcade of America has for a long time been on the list of programs that I thought really deserve to be podcasts because it not only tells great things about American history, it also features some of the Golden Age's finest talent. Particularly when you get into the 1940s, you get to hear people like Humphrey Bogart, Orson Welles, Edward G. Robinson, Basil Rathbone, and it's one of the best intact series that starts out in the 1930s and goes to the 1950s. I love Cavalcade of America, and I think you'll enjoy it as well if you're into American history. And if you're not into other Westerns, with Andrew's site, you can always choose to just listen to one particular show. All right, well, with that said, it's time for today's episode of Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator. And this is just one of two shows that I'd heard that we haven't already done. This one is called 0 Hour, and it aired on February the 2nd, 1954.
William Gargan stars as Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator.
The brotherhood of man is a universal truth. In one instance, anyhow. I never knew a corpse to show antagonism toward a fellow stiff.
The National Broadcasting Company presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. Winter and snow do one of two things to a cliff dweller. He either packs his swimming trunks and suntan oil and mushes overland to a Florida beach, or he climbs into his mink-lined parka, throws his skis over his shoulder, and hops a ski train to Stowe, Vermont. I did the last mentioned. I sat on a train wedged in with a bunch of ski lovers and trained for the cold country. Not because of any yen to be an Eskimo, but for a much less noble reason. Said reason being the pursuit of a buck. Would I please come, the telegram had said. When a client goes so far as to wire you, one fact is beautifully clear. This guy can afford you. In Stowe, Vermont, at the lodge, I baked the rheumatism out of my separate pots and joints in front of a roaring log fire the hotel provided. When the ice thawed out of my good ear, I got wind of what my client, an intense-looking chap named Parker, was trying to get across to me.
The tragedy happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago this week.
Your wife, Jean, fell 400 feet and suffered an injury to her spine.
Yes, someone had tampered with her ski straps, and on an especially steep and icy slope, they broke. Jane was badly injured. She recovered, but is a hopeless paralytic.
100%?
No, just the lower limbs, starting at the waist. She's confined to a wheelchair.
2 years now.
Yes. Jean has been abroad all this time, undoubtedly consulting medical specialists, seeing if anything can be done to restore her.
But?
To the best of my knowledge, it's hopeless.
To the best of your knowledge? You're obviously not close to the situation.
No, I'm not. Since the accident, we've been estranged, Jean and I.
Nice time to cool off, told your wife.
It was not my wish. Jean excluded me from her problem. She turned me away.
Why?
Well, the answer to that is why I'm engaging you. Jean has never acquitted me in her thinking.
She suspects you?
Yes, me among others.
Oh, there are others who might have tried to do her in?
Yes, 3 others.
Name them.
My wife's brother, Tom Cooper, a man named Alan Loomis, and a lady magazine writer named Wilma West.
Well, what did they have against your wife 2 years ago?
Well, I'd rather not influence you with prejudices of my own. It'd be better if you found out for yourself.
I see. Well, answer me this. Why are you ordering an investigation now, 2 years after the mishap?
Well, it happened up here in 1952, this anniversary weekend. And strange as it may seem, Tom Cooper, Alan Loomis, Wilma West, and myself, the 4 suspects, we're all here right now.
Grand reunion.
Skiers come to ski country.
Criminals come back to the scene of the crime. Where is the victim right now? Your estranged wife, Jean. Don't tell me she's also in the lodge.
No, in the village, in a rented cottage.
Well, why is she in her condition?
I don't know. I've wondered about it, but I don't know.
What do you hope to gain from my investigation, Parker?
Vindication. Jean's goodwill. So I can live with myself.
Reinvestigate a 2-year-old accident. 2 years. I'd be plowing through a lot of cobwebs. Getting unpacked in my room, somebody went out of his way to make me feel unwelcome. Come in. A guy with one blue eye and a black patch where his other eye figured to be. A tough look to him, like the world was too populated for his liking.
Am I intruding?
You not. I said come in.
You're Barrie Craig,
That's how I registered.
a New York detective.
That's not on the register.
It's written all over you.
Which suspect are you?
Suspect. Now, look here.
Relax. Well, which is it? Tom Cooper or an Alan Loomis?
I'm Tom Cooper.
Mrs. Jean Parker's brother.
Jean's my sister, yes.
And you're here to threaten me.
To talk sense at you.
That's polite for threaten. So go ahead, worry me.
All right. I did come to say I don't relish being hounded and harassed by a detective. I'm here for fun and skiing.
Now, how do you know my intentions toward you?
I saw you closeted with my moron brother-in-law, Parker. Guessing Parker's scheme wasn't hard.
Scheme?
A grandstand play. Hire a detective to show how he's burning to unravel an old mystery. And by doing it, make himself look good.
Is that a hint you think Parker's responsible for his wife's condition?
Not only a hint, it's my opinion.
Accusation?
Accusation.
Slander. You can be sued by Parker.
Parker tries it, I'll brain him. Craig, go home.
Sure, in good time.
You'll just make a nuisance of yourself to everybody here.
It's what I'm paid for.
All right, milk the situation. Worry a case that had better be forgotten. But don't come near me.
Or?
Are you deliberately baiting me?
A guy looks and barks like he's Little Caesar. I'm always curious about the size of his bite. How do you want to leave, Cooper?
How do I?
Walking or crawling? Tom Cooper wasn't the only weekend skier who had me figured as a pesky killjoy. Another one tried to make me feel unwelcome. But this one wasn't as forward as Cooper. This one was the bashful type who believed in voicing his sentiments from afar. A rifle bullet through my room window. Not intended to kill me, just discourage me. The bullet lay at my feet. I pocketed it for a souvenir. No doubt about it. It was going to be a weekend to remember. Roads get impassable because of a snowblock. You give transportation back to the horses. I rented a sleigh drawn by a horse. My destination, the village. To introduce myself to Mrs. Jean Parker. Pay my respects. En route, still in sight of the lodge, a lady on snowshoes and bundled in furs like a mink polar bear hailed me like she wanted to thumb a ride.
Yoo-hoo, hey!
Yes?
Going to the village?
I am.
Can you take me?
Take lifts from strangers, lady. You're living dangerously.
You have a respectable look. Giddy up. Besides, you're not a stranger.
No?
No.
We have a past together, only I can't place the face?
Spoken like a male. You're Barrie Craig, and I'm Wilma West.
Oh, another one of my suspects.
Yes, I'm a fiendish murderess.
Would-be murderess. The victim survived, I hear tell.
Victim. It's like a page out of ancient history, so remote.
Yeah. 2 years makes any event stale, except to the victim. Confined to a wheelchair, yesterday and today merge for you.
Put it that way, I'm chastened.
Anything you can tell me?
To clear myself of suspicion?
Don't work so hard at being sophisticated.
Oh, but I must. It's my style. It's my livelihood. I'm a sophisticated editor of a smart magazine.
Jean Parker. What did you have against her 2 years ago?
Let me see. Oh, yes, I was the other woman. The femme fatale. Serpent in Jean's garden.
You and Parker?
Me and Evan Parker, yes.
Did Jean know?
Doesn't a wife always? She finds lipstick smears on handkerchiefs. Canceled checks for gifts she never got.
All kidding around, you and Parker. Or was there something for real between you?
Very real, Mr. Craig. Evan Parker loved me, and I loved Evan Parker.
But
Jean wouldn't divorce him. She took it all very badly, very shabbily. She scratched and clawed. Did everything to embarrass and cheapen Evan's love for me.
how does it go between Evan Parker and you today?
Nothing, Mr. Craig. We're polite to each other. We're strangers. Jean sits in a wheelchair between us.
I suppose you know Evan Parker hired me to get at the truth.
Yes, I know. Evan feels guilty about what happened to Jean. I'll make a prophecy.
Yes?
You'll get nowhere at all with your investigation. You'll fail as other investigations have failed before. You'll just renew misery for a lot of people, but accomplish nothing.
I'll spoil everybody's weekend. I keep hearing that. Well, here's the village. Where can I drop you?
Right here. You're, going to pay a call on Jean Parker?
You said magazine editor, but I think you're a mind reader. I tied my sleigh to a hitching post and started to slosh the 100-odd yards to Mrs. Jean Parker's cottage. But before I could make the front door, I had another interview forced on me. A guy standing to his side a few feet away from Jean Parker's place. Standing like he'd planned it as an ambush for me.
Hey, you, Craig.
More people know my name up here.
And pedigree. You're a meddler.
Rough talk.
You'd crucify people for a few pieces of silver. Now, look, stop stirring old ghosts. Stop reopening old wounds.
Stop spoiling skiers' weekends. I've met Evan Parker, Tom Cooper, and Wilma West. By elimination, I guess you to be Alan Loomis.
I'm Alan Loomis.
Once involved with Mrs. Jean Parker. How?
None of your business.
In that case, so long.
Wait. I was in love with Jean before she married Parker.
She left me at the altar to run off with Parker. It's old ghosts. I said you'd stir them. Go home, Craig.
When I wrap this up? Crimes committed. Somebody must be punished. You through discouraging me?
No. I can be stubborn, too. And determined.
Sure. You're the type hero who can stand in an ambush somewhere and pump rifle bullets into a hotel room. You're not denying you took a pot shot at me a few hours ago.
Craig, go home. Amicably with a bonus check from me or in some other way.
In a hearse?
Even perhaps in a hearse.
I was on my way to see Jean Parker when you waylaid me. Do I have to punch my way to her door? Finally, at long last, I got to sit with Mrs. Jean Parker. Once pretty, but now very thin, with deep hollows in her cheeks, and eyes that looked burned out by fever. She was in a chromium wheelchair, a plaid blanket covering her lower limbs.
I wish you hadn't come here, Mr. Craig. Evan Parker engaging you, it can serve no good now.
You want to forget it?
Yes, I do.
Parker's my client. I'll do what he engaged me to do. Clear him of responsibility for your mishap. Pin the blame on who really engineered it. You can help me.
How?
Information and stuff.
Anybody could have tampered with my skis so that I'd plunged to my death.
Anybody meaning your husband, because you wouldn't divorce him? Wilma West, a rival who hated you? Alan Loomis, the suitor you left waiting at the altar when you married Parker? And your brother, Tom Cooper?
And my brother, Tom.
What cooked between you and your brother?
A paltry sum of money. Our father died. The will left everything to me. Less than $10,000. Tom was resentful. Money was always his creed and his god. Tom accused me of exercising undue influence over our father, of poisoning Father against him.
Why are you up here in Stowe?
Sentiment, I suppose. Paradoxical as that may seem. I'm half a woman, but my feelings are whole. All of my youth, I came here for the winter snows, the winter fun.
I see.
You shouldn't have called on me, Mr. Craig.
See a woman in the prime of youth, like Jean Parker was in the prime of her youth, but crippled, only able to live in a narrow area through which she could propel her wheelchair. The picture stays with you. 4 suspects. If one of them had actually schemed the accident, I kept wondering how the guilty party could live with himself. Or herself, if it was Wilma West. The last mentioned party joined me at lunch in the big hotel dining room. Uninvited, she just plopped down.
Don't look so put upon, Mr. Craig.
Frankly, I'm not in a social mood.
I am. I'm starved. What's good?
Read the menu.
Prime roast beef. Food for a ravenous skier. Order it for me with A1 sauce, Mr. Craig. No, not Mr. Craig. Barrie.
Charlie, come here. Roast beef for the lady. You've got away with men, huh, Miss West?
I'm at home with men. I had 7 brothers.
I never had a sister. That makes me a woman hater.
Oh, I wouldn't be discouraged. You'll accept me, or I'll force myself on you.
It won't help your case, baby, if you're the guilty party.
I wonder will you be so blasé about my charms tonight?
What's tonight?
The weekend dance, and I'll be wearing a Parisian import.
Meaning I'll go for the dress, if not the woman?
I don't look to advantage in these ski clothes. I'm overdressed, dramatically speaking.
Well, I've finished eating. So long.
Barrie, don't make me eat alone. Barrie!
The guy never lived who could shake a determined dame. She cornered me again on the ski slope. I wasn't skiing, just looking. I couldn't afford to break a leg, not while I was working.
Barrie?
Breathless over me?
Yes and no. Climb up the slope, I'm winded. I've got something to show you.
What?
This note. Threat against my life.
Wilma, enjoy the short weekend. Your last. Where did you receive this?
From Tom Cooper.
Tom Cooper?
By hand. It had been slipped under his door, he said. By mistake, it seemed, since it was addressed to me.
That's a funny note. Where's Tom now?
Taking the high jump.
Show me the way. We got within view of Cooper, maybe 200 yards away. Cooper poised like an Olympic skier on the most dangerous jump in the area.
That's Tom Cooper up there on the peak.
Yeah. Let's get down to the base. He'll jump, and we'll meet him below.
All right.
Only we weren't going to get to meet Cooper below. Cooper, in fact, wasn't ever going to make the jump. A rifle shot. From an angle I couldn't figure, the way altitude reverberates sound. But an accurate shot. It dropped Cooper dead in his tracks.
Tom! He's been shot!
He didn't just fall. Go stay with Cooper. I want to scout the area for the riflemen. I found a lot of snowmen, but no human being. Hiding out of sight wasn't tough for an assassin at any compass point. There were ravines and rocks and wood. Besides that, stare out at snow like I was, your focus goes awry. You get snowblind. I joined Wilma.
Tom's dead.
Yeah. Drill in the right temple. Somebody up here is a superb marksman.
What do we do?
Find a sled somewhere and get Cooper to the local undertaker. Then inform the coroner. Want to stay here while I go get a sled?
No. I'm coming with you.
Murder. Tom Cooper, Mrs. Jean Parker's brother. We brought the body into the village on a horse-drawn sleigh. Wilma went the whole morbid route with me. She was afraid not to. Afraid to be on her own, out of my sight. After a formal report on how Cooper came to get shot, the local sheriff did some theorizing.
An accident. Some bad shot in those woods who has no right to own a gun.
It wasn't an accident, Sheriff.
Oh, come now, Craig. Don't pump this up to more than it is.
Cooper was shot from a distance by a high-powered rifle with modern range sights. Shot by a top marksman. It took only one bullet. I call that very skillful murder.
Now, why would anyone want to murder this Tom Cooper?
Well, that's a long story. And even if I don't know the half of it yet, but it's murder, bet on it.
It was murder, Sheriff. Look here. This note. It's a threat to murder me.
A threat? Let me see. Wilma. That you, ma'am?
Yes, I'm Wilma.
Enjoy the short weekend. Your last. Now, how is that a threat, like you say?
Can't you read?
He obviously can't.
Oh, now you're getting steam heated, you two. I read the paper, and I say it might mean anything. I'm marking Tom Cooper down as an accidental shooting.
We left the sheriff muttering to himself and started back to the hotel. It was growing dark, and the temperature had dropped enough to make us human icicles in the front seat of the rig. Wilma sat as close as she could get, warmth being at a premium like it was. Halfway between the town and the lodge, Wilma lost the little warmth I could give her. She went from cold to ice cold.
Barrie!
You're shot.
How did I...
It's an ambush from anywhere in the south woods flanking the road. Where do you feel it?
Here in my chest. It hurts, Barrie.
There's a hotel, Doctor. I've got to get you there.
Barrie?
Yes, Wilma.
I won't make it. I won't make it.
She wouldn't make it. I knew, looking at her, watching life flicker, then go. The second murder in a matter of hours. I turned the sleigh around. I had another corpse to turn over to the village authorities. Later at the hotel, my client, Evan Parker, put on quite a show of nerve.
Craig, I've tried to contact you everywhere.
Everywhere is where I've been. When you hired me, you didn't mention mortician's duties.
2 frightful murders. What does it mean?
Somebody is haywire with a rifle.
But why? What reason was there to kill Tom and Wilma?
I can't answer that. I could try a guess.
Yes?
To shut them up. Say Tom and Wilma knew who'd arranged your wife's mishap 2 years ago.
You think Tom and Wilma knew?
It's possible, but as I said, it's only a guess.
Well, Dignifying your guess, if Tom and Wilma knew and were themselves innocent, then your theory can point to only one person.
Like?
Alan Loomis. He's all that's left.
Tom, Wilma, Loomis equals 3. There were 4 suspects to the plot against your wife.
4? Oh, you're including me.
Let's say I'm not excluding you.
You think I'd hire you, bring you all the way from New York, if I was the guilty one?
Guilty parties have hired me before in other cases. I'm a screen they can hide behind.
It's not like that in my case.
I hope not, for your sake.
Loomis. It has to be Loomis. Find him, arrest him, force him to confess. Loomis, he's your man.
I went looking for Loomis. I called his room, then checked the desk. It began to look as if Parker was right about Loomis. Loomis had skipped in a hurry. Hello? Operator, get me the sheriff's office. Hello, Sheriff. Barrie Craig. A suspected murderer is trying to leave town. Alan Loomis, about 35, tall, over 6 feet, brown hair. Grab him and don't let go till I get there.
Loomis turned up somewhere else right after you telephoned me.
You've got him?
I have.
Where is he?
In the undertaking parlor with the other 2. And 1 bullet in him. Clean, like the other 2.
Where did you find Loomis like that?
Right in the village. Sitting on a sleigh without a stir to him. Not 50 feet away from Peck's hardware store.
4 suspects and 3 of them dead. That left Parker, guilty by elimination. Only thing, if multiple murder was Parker's reason for weekending in Stowe, why had he hired me to play spectator to murder? Me snooping around. I could only mean trouble for him. I went back to see Parker, tell him the sad news about Loomis. He wasn't in his room. I called the main desk. Hello? This is Barrie Craig. I'm up in Evan Parker's room. He's not in. Will you page him for me? What? Oh, Mount Mansfield. Thanks. Mount Mansfield. I went to get into my snowshoes. I spied Parker from a distance of 100 yards, toiling upgrade where the slope began to rise. He had his skis perpendicular to his back, and something that looked like a rod or stick wrapped in burlap slung under his arm. I got within hailing distance. Parker! Hey, Parker! He looked like he wanted to run, but how could he, ankle deep in the snow? Then as I got close, he looked like he wanted to melt in the snow and die. I didn't waste any time on protocol. What are you lugging, Parker?
I thought I'd practice the jump, so I strapped my skis together.
I'm not talking about skis. Wrapped in burlap. What is it?
A pole for balance.
It's too short for that. It's only about as long as a rifle. Do I have to wrestle you for it?
No. It's a rifle.
High-powered with a modern rangefinder?
Yes.
And evidence in it of 3 shots fired, maybe?
Evidence of 3 shots fired.
Cooper, Wilma, and Loomis.
Cooper, Wilma, and Loomis.
You sound like you're confessing.
I came up here to dispose of the rifle, hide it, but now...
But now?
I don't care to save myself.
3 murders. Why?
One of them paralyzed Jean. All of them could have, for the grudge they bore her. I meted out punishment equally.
You crazy or pretending?
I'm your prisoner.
Get the burlap off that rifle and demonstrate for me.
Demonstrate?
How good a marksman you are. Pick something off for me at a minimum of 200 yards. 1 shot. Show me a bullseye with 1 shot. Show me, Parker. After Parker demonstrated what a marksman he was, I went to see Mrs. Jean Parker. An informal visit this time, around the back of the house. I didn't announce myself right away. I just stood in the yard and aimed the rifle at a rear window. My second shot was aimed at a window on the side of the cottage. With that, I hurried around to the front of the house and went in with a crash through the door. Fear does remarkable things to people. It gives them a strength and frenzy. It even helps paralytics to rediscover their legs. There was Jean Parker, out of her wheelchair, standing flat against the wall, to be where the bullets weren't.
Mr. Craig.
Yeah, Craig. Fancy seeing you out of your wheelchair.
You were the one firing.
I was the crazy assassin. I figured you'd hate being a sitting duck in a wheelchair, life being precious, even to a murderess.
You're very clever.
Yeah. I began being clever when your husband couldn't hit a tree at 200 yards, or even 50, yet was confessing to 3 murders. You planted the murder rifle in this room. This rifle I'm holding.
Did I, Mr. Craig?
Parker guessed your secret just before I did. That the paralysis was a fraud. A blind you could operate behind. A fraud altogether, or that a temporary condition had been remedied abroad in the 2 years you were away.
I underwent 27 operations.
Parker was ready to shoulder the blame, to save you. He didn't yell frame up. He tried confessing to the murder.
Noble of Evan. I'm touched.
3 murders and your husband a patsy. You wanted them all dead.
I wanted them all to get what they deserved.
Yeah. 27 operations. The suffering you've been put to for 2 years. I guess the mind does crack under a weight like that. I guess you don't stop to think that only one of them was responsible for the accident.
Nobody was ever able to detect the one.
So you convicted all 4 of them and planned their execution.
I'm not sorry, Mr. Craig. I'm not a bit sorry.
I am. Right now, I'm sorry for you.
You've been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, 0 Hour, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story titled For Love of Murder, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
Next week, the ways of a maid with a man is so torrid it electrifies the poor stiff. Sends him right out of this world. Do I mean literally? I wonder. Good night, folks. See you next week.
The National Broadcasting Company has brought you William Gargan, starring as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Featured in the role of Wilma was Connie Ford. This is Don Pardo speaking.
Jack Webb stars in Dragnet next on the NBC Radio Network.
Welcome back. Well, this was a very good, this is one of my favorite Barrie Craig stories. It was a well-done drama and definitely very noir-ash in the way the whole setup went down. And, of course, we don't get the ultimate answer to who actually did the crime, at least the original crime. And there are some indications that this script may have been done before. But this is kind of an interesting thing to listen to, definitely in wintertime. I should point out there was one lost episode before this one. That one was from January 26th, and it's Death Wins the Bet. We'll have several more weeks of lost episodes till we get another one. The next episode's coming will be at the end of March, and then we actually get 2 episodes in a row. So that'll be exciting. Well, we turn now to listener comments and feedback. This we'll have an iTunes review we'll share. This one is from Little Star 58. There's a certain comfort in these old broadcasts. Adam's insightful comments are a plus. I like learning about the details behind the stories, and Adam gives that and more. It's nice to get them in order also. Well, thanks so much for your comments and support. That will actually do it for today. We will be back tomorrow with Candy Matson, and then join us back next Monday for another exciting episode of Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator. This episode of The Great Detectives of Old Time Radio is brought to you by the financial support of our listeners. Thank you so much for all of your support. Today's program comes from November 26, 1950, but it has very much the feel of a Christmas program. And when I first listened to it, I thought, this was a Christmas or at least Advent season program. But when I saw the new date assigned to it, I decided just to go ahead and air it in order. But listening to the episode a second time, I'm not quite sure I made the right call. And after listening to it, you may not think I made the right call, and you very well could be right. But regardless, here we go. Today's episode is from November the 26th, 1950, San Juan, Bautista.
Hello, Yukon 28209. Yes, this is Candy Matson. Come on, Mallard. Stop pouting. Enjoy yourself. It's earlier than you think.
Monterey at Christmas time is delightful. Carmel is most enchanting. Salinas I enjoyed. But to haul us way over to some unexplored cannibal country is too much.
Did you hear that, Rembrandt? Cannibal country, he calls it.
Mallard, me boy, this may come as a shock, but San Juan Bautista was founded by the Franciscan Fathers in 1797.
I remember it as though it were yesterday.
Don't let him bother you, Ducky. Mallard can't stand this wonderful air. He misses the gas fumes of the big city.
That's not that, Candy, but I do want to get back.
Relax, Max. You had a chance to take 2 days off, so make the most of them.
What's the name of this town again?
San Juan Bautista. You'll love it, Mallard, dear, really. The mission, all the old buildings still standing.
Oh, you'll adore it. Honestly, you will.
Look, Rembrandt, old friend, I may like a thing, but I'll be hanged if I'll adore it.
As you will, minion.
Oh. How much farther, Candy?
We're just entering the town now. I thought we'd take a look at the mission first.
Okay. Hey, this is a cute little town at that.
That's my boy. I knew you'd warm up once I got you over here. You know, strictly from a police angle, you might be interested in knowing that Joaquin Murrieta visited here more than once. So did Three-Fingered Jack.
Where's my shooting iron? I'll get the varmints.
Take it easy, Hopalong. We're approaching the mission.
Oh, for golly sakes. It's a big one.
Isn't it beautiful, Mallard? And don't you get a whole flood of thoughts going through your head when you look at it?
Yeah.
With a little imagination, one could almost see the native Indians walking back and forth, coming into town for the evening vespers.
I only hope the mission's open.
Well, let's find out.
Good idea.
I think I see one of those fathers down the front, Candy. You can ask him.
Thank you, Ducky. Yes, let's go. Good afternoon, Father.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good afternoon, young lady.
Can you tell me if the mission is open this afternoon?
Oh, yes, most certainly. Do forgive me if I appear somewhat startled. I was picking these red berries, and I failed to hear you drive.
I'm sorry, Father.
Oh, that's quite all right. I fear my thoughts were wandering.
Pardon me, may I introduce Mr. Watson?
How do you do, Father?
And this gentleman is Lieutenant Mallard.
How are you, sir?
Lieutenant?
No, not military, Father. I'm with the San Francisco police.
The police?
No, Father, we're not here on business.
I was wondering. I thought for a moment that Father Philip might have reported me.
Reported you? For what, Father?
At lunchtime, I made a frightful mistake. By error, I ate his apple. Right under his very nose, too. Oh, pardon me. I'm Father Paulino.
I'm very happy to know you, Father. My name is Candy Matson.
I have some free time. I would be pleased to show you about. May I?
We'd be delighted, Father Paulino.
I think we can start with the yard. It gets dark so early this time of year.
Father Paulino! Father Paulino!
Why, it's Miguel Torres. What could be wrong?
Oh, Father Paulino, it is there.
Miguel, my son, what is it? What has happened?
Oh, the most awful thing you ever hear of. Vicente, he just shoot himself.
Merciful heaven. Is he badly hurt, Miguel?
Oh, I think he is dying, Father.
No. The poor boy. Where is he?
At his house.
Excuse me, Miss Matson. I must leave immediately.
Would my car be of any help, Father?
The car. Yes, thank you.
From Studio A in San Francisco's Radio City, the National Broadcasting Company presents Candy Matson, Yukon 28209.
Tragedy in the sleepy little California mission town of San Juan Bautista. But it wasn't the first time. If you look around the side of the mission, you'll see that the place marks the mass grave of 12,000 Indians who died in a smallpox epidemic years ago. San Juan has seen knifings, too, and other shootings. It had lived a rowdy life in the dim years gone by, and obviously the rowdiness was still alive in a minor sort of fashion. We got in the car, and with Miguel directing us in broken English and Latin gestures, we made our way out on a dirt road about 3 miles outside of town near the granite quarry. We finally pulled up in front of a one-story wooden house that must have been built before the turn of the century. We went inside, and there was the prone form of a Mexican boy of about 21 or 2.
There he is, Father. Is he all right?
I don't know, Miguel. I'll have to see.
He's gone, isn't he, Father?
Yes. May his soul dwell eternally in peace.
He is dead?
Miguel, listen to me. His flesh is cold, yes, but his soul still lives. Do you understand what I'm saying, my son?
Yes, Father Paulino.
Wait a moment. Mallard. Look. Here where he was shot.
Well. If Vicente knocked himself off, he certainly did it the hard way.
You're not kidding.
Miss Matson, would you mind very much if we brought the body back in with us to the mission?
I'm afraid we can't, Father. Would you step over here? I have something to tell you.
Certainly, Miss Matson. You wear a look of concern. Is there something wrong?
I'm afraid there is, Father Paulino.
What do you mean?
Well, it looks very much as though this wasn't self-inflicted.
What? You don't mean that... Miss Matson, are you sure of what you're saying?
Reasonably so, Father. You see, a gun held at close range leaves powder marks. Vicente's wound is as clean as a whistle.
Well, I don't know what to say.
I'm sorry, Father, but that's why we can't remove the body. We'll have to call the sheriff's office in Hollister. Can you tell me where I can find a phone?
Yes, there's one at the mission. If you don't mind, I'll stay here. I have work to do.
Father Paulino was right. He had work to do. The ecclesiastical kind. And he did it in a simple and impressive way. San Juan Bautista, with a population of a little over 600, and we run plop into a murder. Mallard said he'd go back to the mission and make the call, and left. 45 minutes later, the undersheriff of San Benito County drove up with Mallard. He asked the standard questions, but learned nothing. We went over the house with a fine-tooth comb, but we came up with a blank. There being nothing else to do at the moment, the men put the body in the sheriff's car, and he drove back to Hollister, and we returned to the mission.
Would you care to take a stroll about the gardens, Miss Matson? It's most peaceful. Makes a wonderful place for clear thinking.
Well, yes, Father, I'd love to. Mallard?
You go ahead, Candy. I promised the sheriff I'd take a look around town for him.
Oh, sure.
Want to come along with me, Rembrandt?
Yes, I believe I will. If you don't mind, Candy.
No, not at all.
One thing before you go. You will be my guests for dinner, won't you?
That's most gracious of you, Father. What do you think, Candy?
I think it would be charming.
Okay. We'll see you back in a little while, then.
This is a tragic thing, Miss Matson. Vicente was a splendid lad and a good Christian.
I know how you must feel, Father.
I never could understand why there must be things of this sort in the world. Not only between individuals, but countries and nations as well.
It is hard to comprehend. The more I try to reason, the more confused I become. About Vicente, Father, who do you suppose could have done it?
I don't know. I really don't.
How about Miguel?
What? Oh, no, Miss Matson. Why, he and Vicente were like brothers.
Brothers sometimes quarrel, you know.
Not in this case. Miguel is a good boy. Why, he works here at the mission.
You'll pardon me, Father, but in my business I find I have to be doubtful at times.
What is your business, Miss Matson?
I'm a private investigator, Father.
How very curious.
Yes, I suppose it is, but in a sense, you're a policeman too, Father.
I?
Yes. You police the soul, don't you? Ride herd on the thoughts and actions of men?
Why, yes. I'd never thought of it that way before. Yes, in a sense, I suppose I do wear a badge. I wear the badge of righteousness, the star of God.
Father Paulino was a wonderful man. As we walked about the mission gardens, he spoke of many things, but in parallels, all connected in some way with the killing of poor Vicente. The time passed swiftly. I was so engrossed in listening to the kindly voice of the man, and before I knew it, Mallard and Rembrandt had returned, and it was time for dinner. Miguel did the cooking and waited on the table. Dinner was a masterpiece of simplicity, and if it hadn't been for the tragedy of the afternoon, I would have been enjoying a serenity I'd never known before. Did Vicente live out there all by himself, Father?
Yes, the house belonged to him. He's a descendant of one of the original families of San Juan. His great-great-great-grandfather owned one of the largest ranchos in California. It stretched from here to the Pacific Ocean.
That's a lot of property.
Indeed. You see, it was given to him by the King of Spain under one of the original Spanish land grants. I understand there still are some in existence.
Yes, I believe there are. But they've all been chopped up and sold in much smaller parcels.
Did Vicente work, Father?
Oh, yes, he was a good worker. Seasonally, in the artichoke fields and the lettuce fields. In the off-seasons, he did odd jobs about the town.
Speaking of town, Father, do you know a woman named Rose Taylor?
Why do you ask that?
Do you?
Yes. Why do you mention the name?
There's a little bar down the street.
Yes, I know. The frailties of mankind.
The fellow who runs the place says there's been talk about Vicente being kind of loco over the Taylor girl.
I'd heard something of the sort, too. I was going to speak to him about it on Sunday.
How long has she been here, Father?
She arrived about 2 months ago. I'm afraid she's been a disturbing influence on our little village ever since.
Did you talk to her, Mallard?
No.
Where does she live, Father?
In a small cottage over on 2nd and Polk Street.
I think we ought to take a little walk over there, don't you, Mallard?
Right as rain, Cupcake. I dropped by her place before dinner, but she wasn't in.
Oh, you know where it is, then?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Please don't think it's rude, Father, but it's something we have to follow through on.
I understand, Miss Matson.
We got up from the table and went outside the mission. We pulled our coats closely about us, and little jets of steam came from our mouths as we breathed the crisp evening air. We'd only gone about a dozen steps or so when we were stopped by a voice from behind.
Please, Senorita Matson, senor.
Huh?
Why, it's Miguel. What is it, Miguel? Something wrong?
I hear you talking inside. You are going over to see Senorita Taylor?
That's right.
Oh, please, no. The Senorita Taylor, she is a good girl. She will not hurt anyone.
That's not what Father Paulino seems to think.
Oh, the good father, he does not know much about the outside. All his life he live in the mission. He is, how would you say, he's secluded?
The good father may be secluded, Miguel. But I have a strong hunch he knows more about what's going on around here than anyone in town.
Oh, but please, you believe me? Senorita Taylor, she is a good person.
Look, Miguel, you want to find out who killed Vicente, don't you?
Oh, she?
Well, that's what we're trying to do. Now, you be a good boy, Miguel, and don't get yourself all in the stew. We left Miguel and walked over a couple of blocks to 2nd and Polk Street. We found the cottage and saw a light in the front window. Mallard knocked. And what opened the door would have been a delight on any movie screen, if you like your beauty the hard way. Rose Taylor, it was obvious, could raise an awful lot of havoc with the local swains.
Something you wanted?
Yes, we'd like to talk to you for a moment, if you don't mind.
Yes, I do mind. I'm kind of busy.
I'm sorry, Miss Taylor, but you'll have to unbusy yourself. This is the police.
Police. Always the police. Why can't you let me alone?
You've been in trouble before?
Nothing serious.
Might be this time. You know a kid named Vicente?
Yeah, I heard what happened. These crazy kids. They have a yen for knifings and shootings.
Don't they just? This is Lieutenant Mallard. He tells me he was by here this afternoon and you weren't in.
That's right. I went into Salinas to do some shopping.
We can prove that, can we?
Absolutely.
Well, what have we here? A very cozy little .32 revolver. And also nicely cleaned and oiled. You always keep it this immaculate, Miss Taylor?
Certainly. When some character gets too much tequila under the belt, you don't know what's going to happen.
And the suitcase on the bed. You getting ready to go somewhere?
Wait. If you're trying to make out that I knocked off Vicente, you're just whistling Dixie in 4 flats. Look, a telegram. If you'll take the time and the courtesy to read it, you'll find that my sister in Los Angeles is a very sick girl. I was going down to spend a week or so with her. What is this, a convention hall? Come in.
Buenas noches, senorita.
Miguel, beat it. I'm busy.
I am sorry. I am sorry. I have a message for Senorita Matson and for you, senor. Father Paulino sent me.
A message? What is it, Miguel?
The sheriff in Hollister just called on the telephone. He said to tell Senor Mallard that the bullet that killed Vicente was from a .32 caliber gun.
From San Francisco, the National Broadcasting Company is presenting Candy Matson, Yukon 28209.
Well, now, a .32 slug had killed Vicente, and Miss Taylor owned a .32 gun. It looked practically tailor-made. However, I've seen coincidences like this before that have gone up in thin smoke. Mallard plucked the rose and asked her to return to the mission. And right there, I got me a king-sized idea. I excused myself, went to the little bar, and from the owner, I found out where the local banker lived. 5 minutes later, I was in his living room talking to him, a gentleman named Banta.
Yes, it's terrible. I only heard about it a half hour ago. Vicente was a splendid lad.
That's what I've heard. Well, the reason I'm here, Mr. Banta, is to inquire about his financial status. Did he do any banking at all?
Oh, yes. Up to about 5 or 6 weeks ago.
Uh-oh. Can you tell me more?
Well, he had a savings account of approximately $2,800. Suddenly, he began making withdrawals. 200, 300 at a time. Yesterday, he made another withdrawal. He'd left a total of $400 in his account.
Well, what do you know about that?
Well, he said he was having trouble with his crops this year. The rain and all that.
Mm-hmm. What about Miguel Torres?
Now, that's a very strange thing. He had an account of $900. That's practically gone, too. I assumed he was helping his friend Vicente.
I smell a very well-shaped rodent. Name of Taylor. Thanks, Mr. Banta. You've been a great help. Things seem to be taking shape. It looked like the old story of a no-good playing both ends against the middle. Both ends being Vicente and Miguel. The no-good? Rose Taylor. Scattered pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fall in place. Father Paulino. At first I couldn't believe it. And I wondered what his reaction would be. Next step, the bartender at the village pub. I walked in and caught him at a good time. The place was empty.
Good evening. What can I do for you?
A package of cigarettes, please.
Sure. How are these?
No, the others, if you will.
All right. There you are. Anything else?
Mm-hmm. Information.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Miguel Torres and a kid named Vicente. Did they come in here often?
Who are you?
Private investigator. Here. My merit badge.
Yeah, that's a new one, a lady cop.
The world is ever-changing, Buster. Now the answer.
Yeah, they used to come in about once a week. Usually on Saturday nights.
Drink much?
Nah, good kids, both of them.
When were they in here last?
Well, let's see. Yeah, night before last.
Any arguments?
They're so soft-spoken, those kind of guys, it's hard to tell. But now that you mention it, I think there was a bit of a rhubarb going on.
Who was taking the lead?
Torres. I gather he was sort of griped about something. Not too loud, not much fire.
That's when it gets dangerous. And they weren't drunk?
Nope. And I can spot a lush at 40 paces. They each had a beer and left.
Thanks, mister. Here, buy yourself a cup of Christmas cheer.
Well, thank you.
Click, another piece of the puzzle in place. And all roads led right back to the mission. With the exception of the late Vicente, we had the full cast of characters front stage center. And a neat little bit of intrigue it was, too. As I drew near, the warm lights of the mission were streaking through the windows, contrasting greatly to the thoughts that were going around in my head. I walked in. Father Paulino was sitting over his desk, his head buried on his arms. Mallard was leaning back in a chair, watching Rose Taylor, who in turn was smoking a cigarette and pacing the room. Rembrandt was reading a copy of the National Geographic. All heads snapped to me as I entered.
Hi, Cupcake. Have fun?
Of sorts. What's new here?
Oh, waiting for the sheriff from Hollister. He's going to book the Taylor lady on suspicion of murder. That way he can hold her.
I think I have somebody else for him to hold. Father Paulino?
Yes, Miss Matson.
I think you know what I'm about to say.
Yes. Yes, I think I do.
Where is he?
In the next room. I'll call him. Miguel, my son.
Si, Father.
Come in here, please.
Si.
Miss Matson wants to talk to you.
You're here in the mission now, Miguel. You're standing right under the cross. You can't lie. You killed Vicente, didn't you?
Yes.
Why?
I love her. I give her everything I have. My love, my heart, my money, everything. She tell me that she is mine, all mine. That we will be married, right here in the mission by the good Father Paulino. Then last week, I find she is also making the pretend love to Vicente. I almost went crazy.
You told Vicente to stay away.
See, that is right. But last night, I stand across the street from Senorita Rose's house. Vicente was there. And as they say goodnight on the front porch, she kissed him and pat his cheek, just as she did to me.
And so you shot him this afternoon. With a .38. And when the sheriff called, you told us it was a .32, knowing that Rose also had a .32.
See, that is right. But you would never get me for it.
Mallard, Father, come on, don't let him get away.
There he goes, up on that wall.
Miguel, stop. You can't run away for the rest of your life.
I have no life, Father.
Miguel, watch out. You're going to...
He's done for. Broken back.
Is the pain bad, my son?
No, Father. Am I dying?
Yes, Miguel.
You see, I told you I had no life left. The bells, you hear them, Padre?
Yes. They're ringing, Miguel.
Time for the company. You will pray for me, Father Paulino?
Of course. Merciful Jesus, all-knowing, all-seeing, look down upon us this night, so close upon thine own natal day. This boy I'm holding in my arms, Miguel Torres, he has trespassed upon thy commandments. In thine infinite mercy, I seek his forgiveness.
Thank you, Father. Thank you.
He's gone, Father Paulino.
Yes. Requiescat in pace. May his soul rest in peace.
Amen.
Where is she, the tailor woman?
I'm right here, Father.
Look upon this boy I'm holding here, the second death in a matter of hours, and all because of you.
I know.
In the eyes of the law, you are guiltless. You pulled no trigger to cause the death of Vicente. Miguel fell off a wall to his death, but it was because of you.
I realize that now.
Do you really?
Yes, Father.
And perhaps in this hour of dark tragedy, something has been salvaged after all. This is the Yuletide, the anniversary of the birth of Christ. In his infinite wisdom, the Almighty is charitable. Rose Taylor, seek his forgiveness. Leave San Juan Bautista. I'm sure Miguel and Vicente would want it that way. Start anew. Lead a penitent life. It is not too late. Tell me, child, do you recall Mary Magdalene?
I do, Father.
Need I say more?
No.
Someone help me with Miguel. We will carry him back to the chapel and finish the compliment there.
I will, Father.
Thank you. Yes.
There's a remarkable man, Candy.
More than you know, Mallard, dear. Peace on earth, goodwill toward man and woman. In these troublesome times, there is a brilliant, shining example of what we have to hold on to.
You know, I wish there was a Father Paulino in every country of the world. We'd have more time for raising kids than for killing them.
My point exactly. Come on, Mallard, dear. Let's get back to San Francisco. I have a special star to put on my Christmas tree tonight. For all the Father Paulinos that ever lived.
Listen again next week at this same time. Just dial
Candy Matson, Yukon 28209, and a very Merry Christmas to you all.
Featured in the story were Hal Burdick as Father Paulino, Lou Tobin as Miguel Torres, and Jane Bennett Carnell as Rose Taylor. Henry Leff is Lieutenant Ray Mallard, and Jack Thomas plays Rembrandt Watson. The program stars Natalie Masters as Candy and is written and directed by Monty Masters. Sound effects are created by Bill Brownell, and Eloise Rowan is heard at the organ. Our engineer was Clarence Stevens. The characters in this story were entirely fictitious. Any resemblance to actual people is purely coincidental. The program comes to you from San Francisco. This is Dudley Manlove speaking. This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
Welcome back. This was probably without a doubt the most moving and dramatic of the Candy Matson episodes. This is also an episode where I kind of wondered what Rembrandt Watson was doing there other than getting paid for scale for appearing on the program. Didn't seem like a whole lot for him to do. Now, it may seem somewhat puzzling that an episode with so many references to Christmas first aired just a little bit after Thanksgiving. But there is a reason that occurred. And the big reason was that NBC kept changing the time slot. According to the Digital Deli, during the show's last 40 weeks on the air, the time slot was changed 6 times. And one of the big challenges was that Candy Matson was recorded before a live audience. And you could not be sending out, new invitations. So he theorizes they probably just said, all right, well, we're just going to go ahead and record every week. The problem, when it comes to things like Christmas episodes, is that the episode might be slightly out of season. Many old-time radio researchers and loggers took a guess at the show, putting it on December 18th, which would seem appropriate but not actually correct. It does appear, because Candy Matson wasn't actually airing on that day of the week, it does appear that there was another Christmas time episode recorded the next week. The title of that show is What in the Dickens, which would seem to be a reference to Charles Dickens and likely a reference to the Christmas Carol. I should mention that there were 8 weeks worth of missing programs between last week's program and this one: A Death in the Ring, The Mystery on the Fairway, The Stadium Murder, Candy's Birthday Surprise, Norvello the Great, Paul Drake's Curtain Call. Perry Mason crossover? Well, it must have been something else. And then The Death in the Alley. And if anyone ever gets down to the Thousand Oaks Public Library, from what I've gathered, more than 80 of the Candy Matson scripts out of the 91 are there to read and enjoy. All right, well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback. Wonderful program. So glad I found it. Thanks for all the hard work, Adam. That from Podcast Alley, and this from over on iTunes. Great show. Sure makes the day go by quicker as I'm driving my tractors. And it's from SD Rancher, which I assume means South Dakota Rancher. Well, we're definitely glad to be of service, and stay warm out there. From what I gather, Dakotas get kind of cold this time of year, same as eastern Montana. All right, well, that will do it for today. We will be back tomorrow with Let George Do It. And then join us next week for the final San Francisco episode of Candy Matson. Well, this episode of The Great Detectives of Old Time Radio is brought to you by the financial support of our listeners. Thank you so much for your support. And I want to especially thank Will and also Paul for sending along donations, and we'll be sending them access to our premium site, which we do with all donations of $7 or more. Well, the title of today's episode of Let George Do It is Tag You're It.
Personal notice. Danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details. Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Tag, You're It. Another adventure of George Valentine.
Here's a lady with a letter. Yes, sir, she's got one. Right here in her purse.
Give me that and give it back.
No, lady. Wait a minute. Here's your letter. Now, what's the matter? Don't you want me to read it? Oh, you wrote this. That's it. You wrote it and haven't mailed it. You probably met it at the postman. He only rang once. Oh. Ladies, listen to this. Listen. My dear Mr. Valentine. Valentine!
Murphy, would you please?
Now, don't blush, lady, don't blush. If our radio audience can only see her. Her, I said, not me. But, madam, if I'm brave enough to wear your scarf over my head, it's really a good fit, don't you think? Don't you think it is? Over the face. What do you say? It's not a fit, it's a convulsion. Oh, you're real cute. Listen, how about your husband, madam? Huh? You suppose he's listening? I'll bet he doesn't know about this, Mr. Valentine. Ladies, isn't that a romantic name for you? Valentine. I'll bet your husband's out buying a gun right now. He's got a rival. But you remember our bargain now, lady, on this program. You dared me to wear your scarf so I can read anything I find in your purse. Shall I read it, ladies? Yeah! All right, that's right. All right, ladies, here goes now. Dear Mr. Valentine, I've got to see you about a telephone call. A telephone call, huh? Well, let's make her do the call right here from the studio, shall we? All right, ladies, but here's the rest of the letter. Listen. I've got to see you because I'm not sure, but I think somebody is trying to murder me. Murder? Trying to murder?
Mr. Matson, all I wanted to tell you was that it isn't my letter. It's not my purse. A large woman. She got up and left in a hurry. She must have taken mine. It's her letter.
Mrs. Oscar Pettyman, 432 West 16th Street.
All right, I'm coming. What do you want?
Mrs. Oscar Pettyman, this is 432.
Ain't here.
You her husband, friend, Mr. Pettyman?
He's in Chicago. Can't stand her. Leaves every chance he can get. Ansel Pettyman's my name, her brother-in-law. I board here.
Well, Mr. Pettyman...
Yes, the police phoned me, miss, and no, I don't know anything.
You hung up on him?
Well, why not? Bunch of pests. Anybody tries to kill Bertie, it wouldn't hurt anybody. Why should they care?
Wow, you're a nice guy.
Puzzles, contest prizes. Yeah, you ought to see what she looks like.
Well, what do you mean?
Bertie's as big as a horse. My dear sister-in-law. So she started to write you a letter. Think somebody's trying to kill her. All right. What's all the fuss? Let him. Yeah, there's a time-wasting contraption.
Now, wait a minute. I'll answer that. I asked somebody to call me here. Valentine speaking.
Hal McMurtry. Mr. Valentine. Now, listen.
Did you find her?
There are cops all over the studio. I want you to understand, though, that I didn't know who you were when I read that letter.
Did you find her?
Well, no, not exactly. Not yet. But believe me, we're turning the place upside down. Now, about that game I play on my program.
Give me that phone. Give it to me.
Well, look, I want to explain.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on? McMurtry.
This is Holman speaking, F.J. Holman.
What? Who? What?
I'm the studio manager, Mr. Valentine, and as I told the police, we'll do everything possible. I've warned McMurtry before about that silly game he plays with those women. They were wearing their scarves and then trying to embarrass them by prying into their purses.
Well, they love it. You know they love that.
Be quiet. I just wanted you to understand, Mr. Valentine.
Well, yeah, sure, Mr. Holman, sure. Nobody's going to sue anybody. Skip it.
But you can ask Ansel there. He's been our janitor here at the radio station, you know.
He's what? No, I didn't know anything.
That Bertie Pettyman, she's the sort of a person any number of people might want to kill. She's a pest, you understand? A pest.
Okay.
A professional radio contestant who's forever snooping around here. And sooner or later, she'll be back. You see, that's what I mean. You don't need to worry. She's an unpleasant woman that lots of people...
Oh, tell it to McMurtry. I'm busy.
Hey, bunch of characters work at that place.
Including you, huh?
Gosh, 20 years, never a day sick. How else do you think my sister-in-law get all the broadcast tickets I get 'em for? Keeps her away out of my brother's hair.
Look, I just want facts. Never mind the double talk like that Holman gives out because he's scared his radio station will get involved.
Hello from Tag. You're rich. You're wealthy.
What?
Letter she started said something about a phone call, didn't it?
That's right. And when the police ask you about
Trying
it...
to remember. Only a phone call I know anything about happened yesterday when I was home for lunch. Bertie stepped out to look up something for a newspaper contest. Voice says, hello from Tag. You're rich. You're wealthy.
What?
I'm not fooling. That's the kind of crazy stuff goes on around here. No greeting, no nothing. I remember every word. If you look in your mail today, you'll find you're a winner. We hope you enjoy your award.
And that's all? Look in your mail. Hope you enjoy your award.
It happens all the time. She don't do anything for a living except that. Puzzles, contests, coupons are always ringing up, delivering things. You ought to see her stuff. She's got 5 vacuum cleaners in this house, and she doesn't use one of them.
What was in it, the mail? What was the award that they...
Search me, friend. I wasn't here. I work for a living.
Okay. Hey, Brooksy, phone Riley. Get him to check the mailman.
Sure, George.
So you don't like your sister-in-law, huh? Nobody seems to.
Doesn't do anything.
I know, yeah. Nut on contests. Well, sometimes I like contests myself. But I suppose it's a little different if that's all she does.
Always trying to get something for nothing.
Well, that's not the point. The idea is she was worried, wrote to me.
It is the point. How worried could Bertie be if she went to Levantin off to a radio studio to have fun before she mailed your letter?
Well, I'll grant you that it's...
I don't take it seriously because neither did she. Murder. Yes, it's just another idea to waste time with. You ask me, she's out someplace now. Forget all about it.
Wait a minute now. Tell me, what kind of a voice was that on the phone? That, Tag, you're it. Man or woman?
Man, I guess. I don't know. It lisped.
It what?
Lisped. Like this. Soft voice. Barely hear it.
Lieutenant Riley? Well, this is Claire Brooks.
Oh, wait a minute. Here, let me have it, Angel. Hello, Riley.
Listen, Valentine. We haven't found that Pettyman dame yet, but we just put out a bigger alarm on it because...
Riley, look, now, wait a minute. A quick angle. Her husband's out of town, so he
Yeah,
doesn't
but I
like
wanna-
her. Yesterday, she got a phone call, and later on, some kind of package
Yeah,
in the
wait,
mail.
will you wait?
Are you trying to accuse my
I
brother
already
of...
got in touch with her husband. He's in Chicago. He's got nothing to do with it.
Oh, Riley, everybody seems to think this is just a false alarm. She's just some kind of a crackpot.
I want it...
All right, maybe so. But if there's 1 chance in 50 of our preventing a real
I
murder...
said wait, will you? It's already happened.
Huh?
I'm busy, I told you, with a bond. And I don't mean Mrs. Pettyman. The exact opposite. Beautiful, young, Neil Diamond.
Riley, for the love of
My
heaven, will
boys
you...
will keep on helping you look for Mrs. Pettyman, all right, but don't bother me. This one's a real case, my friend. This blonde, see, and the only clue I've got to go on is a note in her purse which says, Tag, you're rich. You're wealthy. Ah, she's wealthy, all right. She's dead.
How long ago did the doctor say, Lieutenant?
Oh, it happened the first thing this morning. The traffic officer found her body in the car packed up an alley.
Girl was shot, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Nobody would have noticed it for hours. The best place in the world. Right in the middle of town, an alley in commercial district. But, oh, brother, how you get a connection between Mrs. Pettyman and something like this?
Maybe you don't, Riley.
This girl certainly lived in a fancy apartment house.
That's what I mean. What was she doing in the commercial district? 3A to the left, I guess. What's she doing with a note in her purse that says the same thing as... Huh?
Yeah, there we are.
Miss Dorothy Cheever, huh?
I got the housemaid. She never stopped crying.
Oh, Lieutenant, she was such a lovely person.
Yes,
Such a lovely person.
George, she really did do all right, didn't she?
No one hated her.
Yeah, you can say that
Simply no
again.
one. I can't understand it. She
I'll
was
bet
so
the bald-headed
fine.
guy in that photograph isn't her father.
No, she was alone, I think. So well liked, so lovely.
Yes, yes. Well, so you said, well, now take hold of yourself, see?
She's done so well. She's...
I'm sorry, lady, I'm sorry, but here, take a look at this.
Tag, you're it. You're wealthy.
Yeah, that's right. We found this note in Miss Cheever's purse. Now, the handwriting doesn't check with the signature on a driver's
Well,
license.
of course not. It's mine. I wrote it.
Oh? Well, then you'd better start drying your eyes, lady, and explain what the name of...
I wrote that note for her, so she'd remember, that's all, after the phone call.
The phone call? Oh, no, not
Wait a
the
minute.
same...
Go on, please, go on.
Well, there was this phone call first thing after breakfast. I was in to clean up. A voice says, Tag, you're it. You're wealthy.
What else?
Well, an address. I took the message from Miss Chief.
An address of what?
I'm trying to tell you. It said she should drive a car and park a car in that alley. It's the back entrance of Benson's first store.
Hey, wait a minute. Sure it is, and it's the most expensive place in town.
Yeah, sure, go on.
The voice says she's picked for a chance at a mink coat. You know, one of them giveaways or something. I guess they take your name from a phone book. Well, of course, she went right away. Wouldn't you, miss?
No.
A chance at a real mink coat? Huh? Free? Just 'cause you're lucky and your name's been picked for...
Hey, tell me, what kind of a voice was it?
It lisped. It was, hello from Tag, you're it. You're wealthy. Soft like that. Miss Dorothy Cheever hath been selected for a chance at...
Some crackpot.
no.
Some absolute nut. Sergeant, get hold of whoever runs that program and the radio station.
You haven't heard the worst of it, Riley.
Huh?
Go ahead, tell him, Brooksy. Tell him what kind of a case he's got, what kind of a connection there is between Mrs. Pettyman and this.
Well, we already did call the radio stations, Lieutenant, and the newspaper contest editors, all of them. There isn't any such thing as Tag, you're it, you're wealthy. They've never even heard of it.
Oh, brother. Well, that does it. You mean Mrs. Pettyman will turn up dead, too, huh? Anybody who's tagged will jump for it, just like the poor girl here did. Oh, my friends, we're up against a phony giveaway. Somebody just calling people up and giving away death.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Anyone who has cooked French fried potatoes knows that the frying fat can be used again and again. But eventually, this fat becomes contaminated and has to be replaced by fresh, clean fat. Oddly enough, something like that happens to the oil in your car's crankcase. You start out with fresh, clean oil. But after about 1,000 miles, the oil is apt to do more harm than good. That's because the oil, which has to protect hundreds of precision-fitted engine parts, is now contaminated by dirt, moisture, and grit. And that leaves you with a choice of two things. You can make the oil last longer, or you can make your car's engine life last longer. You can't do both. To play it safe and economical, have the crankcase drained every 1,000 miles. Ask for this car saver service at the same stations where you get Chevron Supreme gasoline, at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean we take better care of your car. Now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Yes, Tag, you're it, you're wealthy, and the lisping voice on the telephone really means that you've been selected for death. A fictitious giveaway, a contest, and you're the winner. At least that's what happened to Miss Dorothy Cheever. She went to collect on a chance at a mink and was shot. And earlier, a message came from Mrs. Oscar Pettyman promising a prize in the mail. And no sooner had she written her fear to you than she disappeared. Well, if your name is George Valentine, you'll have to agree with Lieutenant Riley, as back at the radio station, he puts it so mildly.
An absolute madman is calling up everybody, taking anybody's name from the phone book. And we'll never find Mrs. Pettyman. She'll probably walk into something just like the blonde did. Like everybody else.
Hey, wait a minute, listen.
Huh?
Mr. Russell, you have won. Your name has been selected.
Hey,
You will just stay in
the
your
list.
office wherever you are.
So it wouldn't happen again, huh?
It's from this way someplace.
Here, come on, in here.
All right, whoever you are, put up your hand.
Hey, what goes on?
Who are you? You were whispering just a second ago.
Why don't you ring the bell or knock? Uh-oh. The law, huh?
Stand still, I said.
All right, I'll take it easy. I didn't do anything. Here.
Hello from Tag. You're it. You're...
See? Just a gadget. I like gadgets. I hate the work. Oh, I'm Russell, Johnny Russell, night engineer.
That was a record, you mean?
Where'd you get it? Oh, the telephone. I'm too lazy to answer it. I'm out of the room for a minute. Telephone rings, goes on the tape. Listen.
Hello from Tag. You're it. You're wealthy, Mr. Russell. You have won. Your name has been selected. If you will just stay in your office wherever you are, your prize will come to you. We wish you happiness as a winner in our contest.
Came on my telephone a few minutes ago, I guess. Mr. Valentine, I stepped out for a second. Tape machine rig picked it up. So I'm tapped. So it's me.
Don't you have any idea who it could be?
Look, Detective, I'm a lazy guy. I don't like old women and dogs, but I don't want anybody who wants to kill me for it. So, just hand me my coat there, friend. I'm on my way. Tell the boss and McMurphy...
Oh, no, you don't. Wait a minute.
Ouch! Hey, let go. There we are. Smiling, the boy dropped dead. You don't think I'm going to stick around here, do you?
We'll find out what happens. I'll stay right with you, pal.
And wait for my prize to come, huh? I'm not that curious. I'm going to put as many miles between me and this place
Then you get a bodyguard. Sergeant.
All the same by me.
Oh, Janitor. Janitor, get the sergeant.
Stay here, Angel. Well, McMurtry.
Holy smoke. It could be me next, or you, or just anybody.
Oh, no, it couldn't. Say, it's quite a place Russell has here, isn't it? All these gadgets, pin-ups, hot plate for coffee, and this picture.
George.
Uh-huh. The blonde.
Yeah, Dorothy Cheever. Russell ran around with her once in a while.
Yeah, it all starts to tie together. Not the way I figured, but...
Well, she used to work here, you know.
Oh, no, we didn't.
Well, if you could call it that. She's not the working type, if you know what I mean. I took her out once or twice myself, but she's too rich for my blood.
Well, just what do you mean?
Well, don't misunderstand, but you know, ambitious. She wouldn't turn down a Duesenberg if you offered it to her. Out for the best you could get, you know, but that certainly wasn't Johnny here.
No, she liked men with more money. Like, FJH.
What, George?
Initials on the picture of the other guy. Bald-headed one back at her place, remember? Well, I wanted to see if F.J. Holman is bald.
Hey, now, look here, friend. The boss is all right. Sure, he dated Dorothy, so what? It's him, sure, but there's no love triangle.
Hey, Valentine!
George.
Yeah, hold it. Come on.
Busman's holiday, my friend. In a radio station. What do they listen to? Other radio stations.
Don't you understand? We found her, my sister-in-law. Bertie's all right. She ain't even halfway dead. Listen to her.
Well, I don't see anything to laugh at. Well, I don't. I answered the question right, didn't I?
Back to the microphone, please.
Oh, excuse me. But I'm going to get a prize, ain't I? I mean, oh, my goodness, I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah. Told you what she's like. Might have known it. Ran out in McMurtry's program this afternoon because she remembered she had tickets to this one. She was just telling them over there.
Well, we'll have her under protection, too, Valentine.
Yeah. Told the audience her cat was sick. They'd laugh. Don't blame them. Piece of candy Bertie got in the mail yesterday.
What?
Huh?
What is all this? I'm so confused.
Well, apparently Mrs. Pettyman got a box of candy. That's what the package in the mail was yesterday. The award the Lisper sent her. But anyway, she's out of danger now. Like Russell is.
Hey, Riley. Take a look at Johnny Russell there.
What?
What? My arm. I can't move.
Get him to the hospital. Come on, lift him. Come on, step on it.
Fast as we can, sir.
George, his coat. That's what it was. He said ouch when he put it on, remember?
Let me see that. Yeah, you see that needle there hooked in the lining? You put on your coat, you get a scratch that you don't even notice. Oh, brother, how fast you have to work in this three-ring circus to keep people alive.
Mr. Holman's not in his office, Mr. Valentine.
Oh, well, never mind. Where are you going, Ansel?
I work for a living. What do you think? Instruction box says sweep Studio B. Well, janitor's hard.
All right.
George, I don't understand.
Well, take them one at a time. But see, Mrs. Pettyman got her call first. It's some kind of murder attempt through the mail. Candy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
The whole case got thrown in the open fast because her letter was read right out on the air for everybody to hear. But in the meantime, Dorothy Cheever had got her call and had been killed. Then Johnny Russell. You see, Angel, the murderer was working against time, making mistakes, because it was really going too fast for him, too.
George, they're tied together, though. I mean, the blonde...
Well, they've all been around here in the studio, sure. The blonde, Johnny Russell, even Mrs. Pettyman, always snooping around trying to get free broadcast tickets, remember?
Who's going to be next? I mean, what's the pattern? A killer like that doesn't stop. It just...
What's the matter, Ansel?
I just happened to think Studio B isn't being used tonight. It's a spare down in the basement. With the reserve switchboard.
What?
Yeah.
Supposed to sweep it out for a broadcast, you said.
The note told me to do it. It was in the instruction box. Just a type note. Only now it's not there.
Ansel, you're the janitor. You see everything that goes on around here. Logically, you'd be the next person that...
Hey, Brooksy, get Riley back here. I'm going to be the next person.
What?
Yeah, stay up here, Ansel. I'll take a look at Studio B for you. Record storage, music library, phone booths. Ah, here we are. It's a pretty good-sized studio. What the... All right, come on now, turn them on. Turn the lights on. Come on now. There's a master board around here someplace.
What's the matter? Can't you see?
Look, it's too late to play games, friend. Put your lip back in shape.
Where am I? Yes. Where am I? You can't tell in the dark, can you? Where am I?
Oh, no, look for the love.
Music stands set up for an orchestra. Did you hurt yourself?
Not half as much as you're going to be, friend. Have a music stand yourself.
You only struck the piano.
All right, now look. You're wasting your time, Buster. I know who you are.
Is that so? And I know who you are, too. You're not that stupid janitor, Ansel, are you? You're Mr. Valentine.
Oh, great. Oh, what a smart boy. Smart as anything.
That was a sound effect for Mr. Valentine. Thunder, bells, anything you want. But no one upstairs will hear it. You know, it's a radio studio. It's soundproof.
Yeah, radio studio.
Uh-huh.
Great place to work in. What happened? Did you get fired or something? They pick on you? Come on, tell me. I know where you are. You haven't moved, so you're still somewhere by the big control switchboard.
Mr. Valentine.
Look, now, I won't hurt you. Yeah, I'm on your side. In fact, I'm almost...
Hey, let go of that gun! Get away from those switches! Hey, the wrong switch, Mr. Valentine.
No, what a madhouse. No, you don't. Get away. I'll get the lights. Get over there.
And I still have the gun.
Well. Hello, Ansel. You couldn't shoot me in the dark, could you?
You guessed who I was.
It wasn't a guess, Buster. You made a mistake. But skip that part of it. I'm on your side. Forget it.
Of course you're on my side. But I was fired. You guessed that.
Fired? After 20 years of service?
Pullman said I should rest. But I work for a living. I'm not like the others.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah?
The girl who was out for everything she could get without working for it. Johnny Russell. He's that type, too. And Bertie. Always looking for a free prize someplace.
Stop looking past my shoulder. I'm not going to turn around. The worthless one. And I work. I get fucked.
Are you going to kill Holman, too, the boss?
Lots of people I'm going to kill. Parasites who boil not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Upstairs you pulled that gag to get me down here. It was going too fast for you, wasn't it? Holman was out and you had to have time for him.
You understand, don't you? You're in the way.
Now look, Ansel, you know this is all in your imagination. Those people you tried to kill are all right. Holman's all right. I know too much, but I'm not so bad either.
Shut up!
Why don't you lisp like you did in the phone calls? That was your mistake, you know.
I don't make mistakes.
You're the first one who told me about the lisp. And you pretended you'd taken the first call from that voice. You said you remembered every word. Hello from Tag. You're rich. You're wealthy. If you look in the mail today, you'll find you're a winner. We hope you enjoy your award. Friend, in that entire message, there's not a single S for anybody to lisp on.
For the last time, look at me. Down. And look at the gun. You can't fool me. There's no one behind me. I locked that door when I followed you in here. What difference does it make what I say? I worked all my life. Every penny I've made because I worked.
Sure, that's right, friend. This is a radio.
I'm going to kill you, and no one will ever know that it was I.
No one's ever going to know. What? Let me tell you just one thing, mister. It's just what I've been staring at. One of those switches we hit. Maybe lots of people will know about you, friend.
Mr. Valentine.
Now, you listen to me. Now, I don't know what it means. You could tell me. But right behind you, back there over the door, there's a big red sign that's all lit up. Yeah, look at it. In great big red letters, it says, "On the air."
What? No, this studio
That's
is...
so sucker!
Well, Ansel was always strange. Mr. Holman told you that. He'd saved enough money. He didn't need the job.
I wouldn't try to explain him.
Of course, I never paid much attention to him.
We know you were busy all the time doing what Ansel didn't like.
I beg your pardon. There's nothing wrong with contests, is there? With a bit of skill and a bit of luck?
Oh, no, we just...
You can't tell me there's anything to any of those ideas he had. A madman like that, a man who'd kill people.
No, I like puzzles myself. You're perfectly right. Now, there's no excuse for him. He's locked up where he should have been long ago.
Well, I just wondered, that's all. Because, you see, I just heard about another contest.
Uh-oh.
They're going to give away the most beautiful prizes. And it ain't really getting something for nothing either. Because it's a mystery quiz. And I thought if you'd give me some help, Mr. Valentine,
That's right.
I might even...
This is where we came in. Good night, Bertie. We're going to a movie.
Yes, George, to the Tivoli.
Why the Tivoli?
You're giving away a set of dishes.
Oh.
The last place in the world for gum is in the gasoline you use in your car. That's because gummy gasoline raises Cain with the fuel line, the carburetor, and spark plugs, cuts down your car's power, and makes it logy when it should be peppy. The fact is, most raw gasolines contain impurities that form gum. The only way to get rid of those impurities is to refine them out. That's why Chevron Supreme is so good to your car. It's the gasoline that's super refined to prevent power-robbing gum. And it gives all the qualities in careful balance that your car needs for every driving condition throughout the West. This proper balancing means faster starting, faster pickup, smoother power on hills. So for supreme performance and plus mileage, depend on super refined, balanced Chevron Supreme. Ask for it where they keep a watchful check on your engine oil at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Virginia Gregg as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Wally Mayer is Lieutenant Riley and Jack Bailey appeared as Hal McMurtry. Pat McGinn was heard as Ansel, Bill Boucher as Holman, Arthur Wentworth as Mrs. Pettyman, and Anthony Barrett as Russell. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, this was a very inventive episode, I thought, with basically a serial killer operating under the guise of a contest. And of course, at the core of the episode is a kind of key value that money ought to be earned primarily through work. And this is definitely something that's a little bit different in today's world with lotteries and sweepstakes. There are probably a lot fewer people that feel as strongly as the characters in this episode did about it. Alright, well that will do it for today's episode of Let George Do It. Join us tomorrow for Sherlock Holmes. This episode is brought to you by the financial support of our listeners. Thank you so much for your support, and I also want to especially call out and thank Dennis for his donation. Really appreciate that nice donation, and we'll be sending along access to our premium site, as we do with all tips of $7 or more. All right, well, today it's time for today's episode. This one is called The Case of the Sanguinary Spectre.
From New York City, the makers of Clipper Craft Clothes for Men and 1,036 leading retail stores from coast to coast present the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Tonight's adventure, The Case of the Sanguinary Spectre. Well, here we are, Dr. Watson. This time it's a sleet storm we've waded through to reach your cheerful fireside.
And a Sherlock Holmes adventure, Mr. Harris. Let's not forget that's the real lodestone that brings you on these periodic pilgrimages.
Right, Doctor. Nor sleet, nor snow, nor dark of night can keep this Sherlock Holmes addict from his weekly story, believe me, to paraphrase a much more famous quotation.
Very flattering, I'm sure, Mr. Harris.
Well, what's tonight's adventure about, Doctor?
Tonight I think I'll tell you how Holmes revisited the ancient manor called Hurlston, and how the lady of the manor told a ghostly story which turned out to be more authentic than even she anticipated, what with the blood that dripped slowly out of the wainscoting. Dear me, speaking of authenticity and the like, reminds me that you have a word or so to say about one of the few genuine bargains still left in this world of soaring prices and disappearing values.
Oh, you wouldn't by any chance be alluding to Clipper Craft Clothes, Dr. Watson.
What else, Mr. Harris? What else?
Well, it doesn't take the American public long to recognize a fine product. No, true merit always gets a real spotlight. And Clipper Craft Clothes have that kind of merit. Clipper Craft's out-of-this-world values are recognized across the country. And for just one reason are these values superior. That reason, of course, is the famous Clipper Craft Plan. The Clipper Craft Plan concentrates the buying power of 1,036 of the nation's finest stores from coast to coast, providing year-round economies in manufacturing and distribution costs. Not only do you pay less for Clipper Craft, but they're sold by your own local independent store where you get friendly personal attention. Think of it, truly fine Clipper Craft suits for only $40 and $45, beautifully tailored top coats and overcoats for only $40, and sport jackets for only $26.50. Simply compare them with clothes selling for many dollars more. And now to return to the ghost of Hurlston Manor, Dr. Watson. Hurlston. Say, wasn't that the ancient country home of the Musgraves where Holmes discovered the crown of the Stuart kings?
Correct, Mr. Harris. Absolutely correct. But this is another story. To begin at the beginning, Holmes, as you know, in his cerebral processes, was the neatest and most methodical individual. But in his personal habits, he was the untidiest man that ever drove a fellow lodger to distraction. Not that I'm what you'd call painfully tidy myself.
Oh, now, Dr. Watson, you're always neat as a pin.
With Clipper Crafts, that's easy. But don't interrupt me. Where was I? Oh, yes. I'm certainly not what you'd call prissy, but when I find a man who keeps his cigars in the coal scuttle, his tobacco in the toe of a Persian slipper, and his unanswered correspondence transfixed by a jackknife in the very center of the mantelpiece, then I begin to give myself virtue of airs.
I don't wonder, Doctor.
Imagine then my surprise when, on returning one afternoon from making my medical rounds, I found Holmes in a stiff collar and wearing his Prince Albert. Furthermore, he was tidying up his chemical table and kicking his notebooks, papers, and other impedimenta out of sight under the sofa.
For I'm to be queen of the May, mother, for I'm to be queen of the May.
Holmes! What in heaven's name is the...
Watson, your overshoes. Kindly leave them outside. Can't have you tracking mud about.
Holmes, have you taken leave of your senses? Aren't you feeling well?
Certainly I'm feeling well. Never felt better. But don't stand there with your mouth open like a ninny. Help me clear this litter off the sofa.
But what...
Here, take this gasogene and the morning papers. And here's the microscope and your top hat. Oh, good Lord, there she is now.
Who?
Mrs. Reginald Musgrave, of course. She's coming to pay us a call. Well, don't just stand there with that stuff. Put it away somewhere.
Oh, where, for the love of heaven?
Behind the curtains or the door. No, wait. Chuck it here in the umbrella stand. Hurry.
All right. There.
All neat and shipshape. Not a thing out of place. Except your back hair, Watson. Do slap it down. There's a good chap.
Oh, go to blazes.
Well, open the door for Mrs. Musgrave. Open the door.
Oh, Holmes, you are the most exasperating man, the most...
How do you do, Dr. Watson?
Won't you come in, Mrs. Musgrave? Why, it's not Mrs. Musgrave at all. It's the Honourable Alice Adair, Lady Maynooth's charming sister-in-law.
I was Alice Adair, Dr. Watson, until Mr. Holmes introduced me to his old classmate, Reginald Musgrave, some months ago. It was one weekend last spring when he escorted Lady Maynooth and myself down to Sussex to view the Stuart crown. Right then and there, I fell in love with Hurlstone and determined to become its mistress. Of course, I had to marry Reggie to accomplish my purpose.
Had him eating out of her hand inside of 20 minutes. One flutter of her eyelid and Reggie was a goner.
And I never knew you even met the blighter.
Sherlock, you mean you didn't tell him about the wedding? Now, really, that's too bad of you. Mr. Holmes was best man, Dr. Watson.
Oh.
Reggie and I were married in a registry office. You know how skittery middle-aged bachelors are about a big wedding.
Well, my dear Alice, how are things at Hurlstone?
Dreadful. I'm so annoyed with Reggie, I'm hardly speaking to him. If he goes through with it, I shall divorce him, whether I have grounds or not.
Goes through with what?
He's threatening to sell the estate.
Oh, good Lord, no. Why, the Musgraves have always lived at Hurlstone.
That's what I keep telling him.
Besides, it's famous. It's the oldest inhabited building in the county.
That's what he keeps telling me. He says it's too old to be inhabited any longer. He has absolutely no feeling for all those darling old mullioned windows and the beautiful old mantelpieces and panelling. Keeps on telling me it's damp and draughty. It's his rheumatism, of course, that makes him so unreasonable. That and that wretched Stuart crown you discovered for him, Sherlock. Did you have to do that?
But, my dear Alice, he was delighted when we found the royal diadem. If I'd handed him £1 million, he couldn't have been more excited.
Well, it's turned out to be a regular Frankenstein's monster. People come from all over to see this stupid thing. They come in droves, by carriage and charabanc and lorry. They come and bring their lunches. We haven't a moment's privacy.
Why doesn't he send it off to a museum where it belongs?
Because that's what the government wanted him to do in the first place. Well, things have been going from bad to worse. All those trippers tramping through the shrubbery were bad enough. But that dreadful boy yesterday afternoon, that's what really put the petticoats on the Queen.
What boy are you referring to, Alice?
That horrible little urchin we found in the tea garden, pulling up Reggie's prize petunia by the roots.
Here, I say. What's this?
Oh, it's Alfie, Governor. Picking wildflowers, he is. How he do love nature.
Well, tell him to stop. Those are not wild flowers. Those are my best imported French petunias.
French, eh? Well, what do you know? Here, that's enough, Alfie. That's enough poses. And now we'll go and see the pretty crown.
I don't want to see no crown. What a big posy.
Now stop it, I say. Put that plant back where you found it.
I do like the old man tells you, Alfie. And wipe your nose.
Oh, tell him to stop that infernal racket, or I shan't permit you to see the crown at all.
Here now, hold on there. You can't refuse to let Alfie see the crown. It's historic. He's got as much right to look at it as you have.
That settles it. I'll sell the place, and the grounds, and the ruddy crown as well. I'll sell it to Plunkett, the Pickle King. See if I don't.
Good Lord, don't tell me old Plunkett has offered to buy Hurlstone.
So it seems, Sherlock. I told Reggie if he even thought of it, I'd never speak to him again. But that only made him more determined. You've no idea how obstinate he can be.
Pig-headed is the word, my dear Alice.
Yes, well, perhaps you're right. That's what comes of his staying a bachelor until he was pushing 40.
Hear that, Watson? Let be a lesson to you.
He was probably waiting until you happened along, Mrs. Musgrave.
Why, Dr. Watson, what a charming thing to say. You must make Sherlock bring you down for the weekend.
Thank you.
What weekend? I'm attending no elegant weekend parties at Hurlstone.
Oh, yes, you are. You're responsible for this brainstorm of Reggie's. If you hadn't discovered that wretched crown, he wouldn't want to sell the place. And if it weren't for the crown, I'm sure Hennessy Plunkett wouldn't dream of buying it.
Hurlstone in the possession of Hennessy Plunkett, the Pickle King. It'd be sacrilege.
He even talks about putting out a new brand, Crown Pickles, with a picture of the Stuart crown on the bottle.
Oh, shocking bad taste, eh, Holmes?
I will not have that dreadful old vulgarian strutting around the property. He'd ruin it in no time. Sherlock, you and Dr. Watson simply must come down and help me to save Hurlstone from that pickle peddler. Mr. Plunkett, but how delightful to have you here for a visit.
Never buy anything before I've tried a sample of it, ma'am. Might not be able to sleep here. Get terrible insomnia sometimes in the country.
Well, of course, the frogs and crickets around Hurlston are rather noisy.
Oh, rot. Divas, take Mr. Plunkett's things up to the blue room, next to the bar.
Hold on there, Musgrave. Is that the room King Charles hid out in when he was beating it up north of Scotland?
No, the Stuart room is in the old wing, Mr. Plunkett. You wouldn't want to sleep there. There's no plumbing in that part of the house.
Oh. Look here, Miss Musgrave. I was a grown man before I even knowed there was such a thing as indoor plumbing. Besides, what's good enough for King Charles is good enough for me.
Yes, but that is, if you're a light sleeper, well, the ghost might keep you awake.
Ghost? Look here, Musgrave, you didn't tell me Hurlstone had a ghost.
Why, of course. The Stuart room has always had a ghost.
Oh, ridiculous. Charles didn't die there, Alice. He only hid there for a week or so.
Pay no attention to Reggie, Mr. Plunkett. He doesn't begin to know all the historical facts about this house. Now, since I came here, I've been reading up on all the old documents in the library. This house has had a frightening and gory history, Mr. Plunkett.
Oh, Alice, really?
Well, what do you know? I guess those Britishers were kind of rugged in the olden days. So the place has a ghost. I've always sort of had a hankering to meet a spook. Don't have any where I come from.
Really? No ghosts in Pittsville?
Pittsburgh. Oh. That's where I hail from, Miss Musgrave. I was born in a shack in Shantytown. Imagine if I was to end up sleeping in the bed King Charles slept in. With a ghost besides.
It's rather an unpleasant ghost, I'm afraid. The ghost of Lady Daphne, who shot her lover in the wainscoting.
You don't say. Tell me about it.
Well, it seems that Lady Daphne's husband was always going off to the wars, leaving her behind with her housekeeping and her needlework. Now, women didn't read in those days, you know, so she had no good books to divert her mind. Suddenly, one morning, a young huntsman, all in green, drove up on a chestnut stallion.
Oh, nice color combination, my dear.
Oh, don't interrupt, Reggie.
Sorry.
It seemed that he'd been gored by a deer or something, so Lady Daphne put him in the best guest room.
The one King Charles had made famous.
Oh, don't be stupid, Reggie.
No.
This was back in the days of the Plantagenets. The Stuarts hadn't even been heard of. Lady Daphne nursed the huntsman back to health and fell in love with him. It created quite a scandal, I guess, because pretty soon even old Lord Musgrave heard about it and came sneaking back from the wars one dark night.
Very unsporting of them, eh, Musgrave?
Rather, yes.
Well, of course, you couldn't really sneak very successfully in the armor they wore in those days. So the Lady Daphne and her lover heard him tiptoeing up the hall. And quick as a flash, Lady Daphne shoved her lover into a sort of cupboard in the wainscoting. And when Lord Musgrave came clattering in, she was back in bed, sound asleep. She looked so pretty there, he didn't have the heart to wake her. He just called a couple of his serving men, and they boarded up the closet, with the lover inside.
And the lady and her lover were so terrified they never said boo. And the poor chap just sat there and quietly suffocated to death.
Reggie, I thought you didn't know that story.
Yes, I fancy I've read that manuscript at some time or other.
Well, finally, after several days, the Lady Daphne couldn't stand the strain any longer. She took out her husband's revolver and fired a shot through the wainscoting. And pretty soon a slow trickle of blood came out onto the floor.
Well, that's a departure I hadn't read about.
Lord Musgrave pretended not to notice, but went calmly back to the wars. The Lady Daphne's hair turned completely white, of course, and you can still see her wandering about the room, moaning and wringing her hands. So, dear Mr. Plunkett, I really don't think you should sleep in the Stuart room if you suffer from insomnia.
Oh, don't you worry, Miss Musgrave. If anyone's going to be scared tonight, it'll be Lady Daphne, not me.
Pass Dr. Watson the port, Sherlock. That's a good fellow. His glass is empty. Oh, what's up, Reggie? Oh, just a twinge in my left knee. Must be a storm coming up. That knee's a regular barometer.
Dashed fine port you have, Musgrave. Must be old.
My dear Mr. Plunkett, the port in this house was laid down by my great-grandfather.
Oh, you don't say. The cellar goes with the house, of course.
What remains of it? There are only 3 bottles left beside this one. afraid all my forebears have been heavy port drinkers.
The Musgrave port has always been famous, Mr. Plunkett.
Oh, yes, Dr. Watson. Nothing could persuade me to part with a place that we still had the cellar we had in my grandfather's, or even my father's day. Oh, well. Sic transit gloria mundi. Oh, confound that knee.
It's a reliable weather prophet at any rate. Here comes the storm.
Can't say I like thunderstorms, and never have. Got some bad ones in the Alleghenies when I was a boy. I've seen lightning bounce off of those mountains like it was the devil playing ninepins. Always crawled into my old man's feather bed when I heard it coming. Lightning can't get you if you're in a feather bed. Yeah. You wouldn't have a feather bed here at Hurlstone, would you?
Why, yes, we have some eider-down coverlets, I believe. But don't you think it'll be too warm? I mean, it's only the beginning of September.
It blazes with the heat. You tell Devers to bring me a couple up to my room. I'm going to get into bed right now. Devers, you can light the fire in that fireplace.
Yes, sir, but if you're going to retire,
Now,
sir...
don't give me an argument. Lightning has a habit of coming down chimneys. It's on account of the draft and the cold air. But if there's a fire lit and there's hot air going up, it can't get in.
Dear. That was a close one, wasn't it? Sounded like it hit the old oak. Lightning is always hitting the old oak, but it doesn't seem to mind. That was the oak mentioned in the ritual, you know. I've been here since the Norman invasion, they say.
Light that fire, Dad, blast it!
Yeah, very good, sir, very good. There you are, sir.
Here, help me off with my boots.
Why, you are shivering, sir, and that's a fact. I can even hear your teeth chattering.
Never mind my teeth. Hand me my nightshirt.
Yes, very good, sir. Shall I bring you some water to wash and brush your teeth in?
I don't brush my teeth. I curtain them out. Out of the way! I'm getting into bed.
Very good, sir. Anything else, sir?
Just get out and leave me to get to sleep.
Yes, sir. If you should want anything, I'm afraid you'll just have to yell, sir. There's no bell in this part of the house. Yell good and loud, sir, and maybe someone will hear you. Well, sir, I'll blow out the candle, huh? Good night, sir. Pleasant dreams.
Bed's as cold as an icebox. Storm's blowing over, thank heaven. What's that? Mice. Must be mice. Whole place probably full of mice. Have to clean them out if I buy the house. Now what? Woodwork creaking. Always does in old houses. Lord, it's quiet. Can't even hear the storm. What's that? Sounds like a woman's skirts. There's a draft. Casement must have blown open. It's a curtain rustling. That's what it is. Old houses full of drafts, noises. Maybe I should think twice before I buy the place. Still, Plunkett's Crown Pickles with a picture of the Stuart crown. Good advertising. It sounds just like a woman's petticoat. Confound it, that fire's dying down. Shadows. Nothing but shadows. That is a woman's petticoat. But I can't see anyone. Oh, rubbish, Plunkett. There's no such thing as ghosts. No such... What's that? Wind coming up. Wind in the chimney. Pull yourself together, Plunkett. Wonder what time it is. I'll light a match. Look at my watch. It's half a minute to midnight. Midnight. When the ghosts and goblins... No! match burn my fingers. Confound that creaking. I'm beginning to imagine things. Funny, I could swear there was someone else in this room with me. Oh, don't be an idiot, Plunkett. Who could it be? Who could possibly be here? Great Scott. A shot. A gunshot. Right here in this room. Help! Help! Someone's shooting at me! Help! Matches. Light the candle. Gotta get out of here. Floor's icy. Floor's... Oh, there's something wet and sticky. I stepped in it. Oh, blasted. My hand's shaking so I can't light the candle. Last. Now let's have a look. There is something on the floor. It's red. It's blood. It's trickling out of the wainscoting beside the fireplace. Help! Help! Get me out of here! Get me out!
What's the matter?
Are you hurt, Mr. Plunkett?
Yes. Shots, Musgrave. You heard the shots. That ghost came in here and shot at me.
Oh, nonsense. Alice only made up that story. There couldn't...
Oh, no, you don't. I know what I've been shot at. You couldn't give me this house now. Where's my pants?
Oh, don't be an arse, Plunkett. No one could have shot at you. There was no one in this room but yourself.
Maybe no living person. But look over there, next to the fireplace. Someone shot that hole in the woodwork.
Oh, rubbish. That's a knothole. Just a knothole.
Oh, yeah? And what is that stuff trickling out onto the floor?
Great heavens, Reggie. It's blood.
Of course it's blood. Where's my coat and shoes?
But it can't be blood. No one could be behind the paneling. Why, this is too fantastic. I'm going to rip open the woodwork.
I wouldn't advise it, my dear Reggie. Not while Mr. Plunkett's here. He doesn't look as if he could stand another shock. Better not reveal the Musgrave horror before strangers, don't you know?
Oh, you're right, Mr. Holmes. I don't want no truck with family skeletons. I've had enough. I'm getting out. I don't ever want to see any part of Hurlstone again.
Wait, Mr. Plunkett, you can't go like that.
Blazes, I can't. Goodbye.
But you've forgotten your teeth.
And now, before Sherlock Holmes and Reginald Musgrave discover what lies behind the wainscoting, may I give you a suggestion? Take an expert like your wife or your best girl along with you when you go to choose your new Clippercraft suit or overcoat. See her amazement when she sees the beautiful tailoring, the clean-cut smartness, and the firm, long-wearing fabrics that are yours at such modest prices. She'll say, how do they do it? Just as everyone else does when they're face-to-face for the first time with Clippercraft. $40 and $45 for Clippercraft suits, $40 for top coats and overcoats, and $26.50 for sport jackets are low prices that are the result of the famous Clippercraft plan. They'd be impossible without this wonderful idea that concentrates the buying power of 1,036 stores across the nation. Yes, selling expensive clothes at inexpensive low prices at the nation's finest independent stores is the great big idea behind the Clippercraft plan. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city.
These leading stores in the metropolitan area are proud to add their names to Clippercraft in your suit, top coat, and overcoat. In Manhattan, Saks 34th, Broadway at 34th, John Wanamaker's men's stores, Broadway at 8th and 67 Liberty Street. In Brooklyn, Abraham and Strauss. In Newark, New Jersey, Boulevard Men's Shop, Kresge Newark. And in Jamaica, the B&B Clothes Shop, 16408 Jamaica Avenue.
And now to return to Hurlstone Manor, where Sherlock Holmes and Reginald Musgrave are ripping away the wainscoting in the steward room.
Oh, dear. I do wish you wouldn't open up that paneling, Reggie. Better let sleeping dogs lie and all that. I had no idea that ghost story I made up would turn out to be true.
Stop blithering, Alice, and hand me that chisel.
Oh, I wish I'd never thought up that ghost. I wish I'd never mentioned it to old Plunkett. I never dreamt there would be anything behind that paneling.
Now, calm yourself, Alice. It's not as bad as you think it is. As a matter of fact, I suspect that Reggie is in for a rather pleasant surprise.
But there was a shot. 2 shots. I heard them distinctly.
2 explosions, possibly. Shots, no. I rather imagine the heat of the fire caused them. Reggie, how long since you had a fire in that fireplace?
Never. At least not as long as I can remember. No one's used this part of the house since the other wing was built during the reign of William and Mary. Oh, confound it, this paneling won't budge. Now, I finally got a wedge in. Here, help me pry it loose. 1, 2...
Oh, Reggie, I wish you wouldn't.
3...
By Jove, Holmes, there is a closet back of the paneling. But it's filled with bottles. Dozens and dozens of bottles covered with dust and cobwebs.
Yes, and 2 of the bottles have exploded from the heat of the fire.
Well, here, let's have a look at one of them.
It won't be necessary. I can tell you what's in them. Port. Excellent port. I rather suspect, my dear Reginald, that your revered grandfather had a rather special hiding place in this room.
But how do you know it's port?
By the aroma. My olfactory nerves are rather highly developed, you know. The moment I entered the room, I knew that the ruddy fluid Mr. Plunkett had stepped into wasn't blood, but something far more interesting, a superior and venerable vintage of port wine.
Good Lord, and to think I nearly sold the place to that old ruffian with all these bottles still in it. I'd never have forgiven myself. He'd never have appreciated them, never.
Oh, Reggie, then you're not angry with me for spoiling your sale? I just couldn't bear to think of leaving Hurlston.
Oh, there, my dear, I forgive you. And the next time you think up a ghost story, do try to be a bit more original.
Why, Reggie, what do you mean?
If old Plunkett hadn't been a complete ignoramus, he'd have recognized the incident of the lover being bricked up in the woodwork. It's one of the most famous bits of French literature, you know.
By Jove, of course. No wonder I thought it sounded familiar.
I don't so much mind your swiping your plots, my dear Alice. The best storytellers do, you know. Ask Dr. Watson.
Oh, now really, Holmes.
You must try to be a trifle more accurate, you know. Anachronisms are taboo, my dear, in the best literary circles.
Why, Sherlock, what do you mean?
No Plantagenet lady would go popping at her lover with a pistol.
Why not?
They hadn't been invented. Oh, I'll admit gunpowder was not unknown. Cannon were undoubtedly used at Crécy and Poitiers, but personal firearms for private homicide were quite unavailable.
Oh, dear. Next time I'll say she finished him off with a bow and arrow.
Well, never mind the historical inaccuracies. Opening this panel has been dusty work, and I'm parched. What do you say we break out a bottle and see if the contents of Grandfather's private vault is up to standard?
An excellent idea, my dear Reggie. An excellent idea.
Very well. But I warn you, this is one time the ladies do not leave the table while the port goes round.
Well, Dr. Watson, that certainly was an unusual Sherlock Holmes adventure, when the stain on the floor turns out to be wine instead of blood.
Oh, we had our lighter moments, Mr. Harris. We had our lighter moments, but don't get too relaxed, because next week's adventure is a real old-fashioned hair-raiser. Next week, I think I'll tell you how Holmes and I made a very sinister discovery in the ancient burial crypt at Shoscombe Old Place, and how it explained the strange behavior of Lady Falder's spaniel.
The makers of Clipper Craft Clothes and 1,036 leading stores from coast to coast have brought you another in the new series of broadcasts featuring the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Our stories are based upon the character of Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock Holmes is played by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by Alfred Shirley, and the dramatizations are by Edith Meiser. Sherlock Holmes is produced and directed by Basil Lochran with special music by Albert Berman. If you don't know your Clipper Craft dealer, write Clipper Craft, 200 Fifth Avenue, New York City. Boys will be Boy Scouts, if an adult will give them a hand. Boy Scout Week now is in full swing, a time when thousands of adults ask you to join them in the game of scouting for better citizenship. Full details from the National Council, Boy Scouts of America, at 2 Park Avenue, New York, 16, New York. Be sure to listen next week to Sherlock Holmes in the adventure of Shoscombe Old Place. This is Cy Harris speaking for Clipper Craft Clothes. This is the world's largest network serving more than 450 radio stations, the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Stay with us for the news reported by Melvin Elliott, which follows presently.
Welcome back. I have to say that this was another somewhat weak script. It may have been the weakest so far just because Holmes didn't have a whole lot to do with solving the problem that led for him being sent for. It perhaps would have seemed an appropriate solution, particularly if they still had Petri Wine as the sponsor of Sherlock Holmes, like they had during the last of the Rathbone Bruce eras. They could say, well, what's back there? Why, it's port, and the best port, Petri, California port. Now that would have been bad in one way, but not much worse than Watson in character plugging the sponsor. And this is something that it's really odd in old-time radio. It usually doesn't happen if characters will, as the character press a product. On many episodes of Dragnet, for example, Chesterfield cigarettes would have Webb come out, but he would make the statement as, "This is Jack Webb." You wouldn't see Joe Friday saying, "You want to a criminal, you want a cigarette? Here, have a Chesterfield. It's got great mildness." And this would be just a kind of odd feature of the series. And this is not the most blatant example of characters plugging the product during this mutual run. The most blatant example I'm aware of actually occurs in the next season of the show that we'll get to in a few months. Now, Dennis, who I mentioned at the start of the program, actually emailed me in advance to see if we take PayPal. We do have a PayPal button over at greatdetectives.net, but with all the things we have there, it can be it can be a little hard for folks to find. So I'm going to see if we can find an easier way for folks to donate and find our PayPal page. And if I'm able to do that, I'll let you know about it tomorrow. All right, well, we turn to listener comments. June says simply, "Love these podcasts." And she posts that over on our Facebook wall. Well, thanks so much, June. That's greatly appreciated. And you can become one of our more than 1,100 friends over on Facebook at facebook.com/Radio Detective. Well, I do encourage you to pick up a copy of my ebook, All I Needed to Know I Learned from Columbo. It's available for the Kindle exclusively. And also, if you've got Amazon Prime, you can get it in the Kindle Lending Library. And in All I Needed to Know we learned from Columbo, we take a look at 7 great detectives, including Nero Wolfe, Boston Blackie, Sherlock Holmes, and we draw life lessons from each of their stories and also talk about a history of each detective. It's a fun read. We've got 3 reviews on Amazon. If you've read it and enjoyed it, we'd love to have your review as well. And it's $1.99. So pick up your copy today for your Kindle or Kindle reading app. And as I said, available in the Kindle Owner's Lending Library for free. All right, well, now it's time for today's episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. This is the Lester James matter. And it appears the recording that this MP3 was taken from, the commercials in the middle were edited out, as well as the end. But other than that, the storyline is intact, so here now is the Lester James matter.
For your listening enjoyment, John Lund as Johnny Dollar.
Ned Talbot, Johnny. What are you working on?
Why, nothing at the moment. I was thinking of going to New York for a couple of days. Why?
Well, I have one here on my desk you might be able to do something with while you're there.
Well, tell me about it.
Corinthian covers a textile outfit in New York. Wallace Cotton Company. This week their auditors found a shortage in the books.
How much is the shortage?
Well, it's nearly 5,000. Wait, I got it right here. $4,185.
I'm supposed to find out who took it?
Oh, no, we already know who did that. One of the bookkeepers in their office, Lester James. He's been arrested and admitted everything. I thought maybe you could find out what he did with all that money.
Well, I'm going to New York anyway. I'll see what I can do. Accounts submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Continental Adjustment Bureau, 418 Elizabeth Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Lester James matter. Expense account item 1, $32.56. Train fare and incidentals between Hartford and New York City. After receiving from Ned Talbot the necessary information concerning the indemnity claim of Wallace Cotton and Company, Incorporated. I arrived in New York at 1:30 in the afternoon and checked in at the New Weston. Central Division told me that Lester James was being held in the 17th Precinct Jail. I went right over.
Come on, here you are, darling.
Now what?
Take it easy, James. This is Johnny Dollar. He wants to talk to you.
Hello, James.
Hi. I'll see you later, Dollar, huh?
Yeah, thanks, Sergeant.
You give me a yell when you finish, huh?
Right.
No, what are you? Lawyer or something?
No.
I don't want a lawyer. Said somebody be around to talk to me again, but I don't want to see anybody.
Why not?
I just don't want to see anybody, that's all.
Well, you'll have to be represented by counsel when you go into court.
All right, let somebody represent me. It's a technicality anyhow. I know what'll happen in court. I've got my confession. Who are you, anyway?
I'm an insurance investigator.
Well, what are you doing here? It's a swell day outside.
I'm trying to find out what you did with that $4,185 that you took from Wallace Cotton.
That?
Yeah, that. How about it, James?
Isn't it enough that I'm in jail?
It's enough for the police, but not for my insurance company.
I don't have anything to say to you.
Now, look, don't be foolish. A whole or a partial recovery will have a lot to do with what happens to you in court.
I don't want to be foolish. It's just that I spent it all. Every dime of it. No way to pay it back.
Spend it on what?
Doesn't make any difference.
Might make a lot of difference.
I don't have anything to tell you.
You've never been in trouble before, have you?
No.
They think of things like that when a man comes up for sentencing. Now, this is your first offense.
I know.
You trying to shield somebody, James?
Why don't you go away?
You've been trying the market? Did you gamble with it?
No, just leave me alone. I won't tell you anything, Mr. Dollar.
If you bought something with it or gave it to somebody, if it can be recovered in some way.
No, I tell you, go away, leave me alone.
I'd like to, but you're a thief, James, and you're going to get what's coming to you. I can't leave you alone.
Listen.
Now, you listen to me. If I don't get the information I want from you, I'll get it elsewhere. I'm going to be real honest with you. Corinthian Liability wrote a blanket policy on Wallace Cotton and Company, promising to pay them in full for every loss caused by fire or theft on their premises. Now, no insurance company takes the word of some guy sitting in a jail cell where there's cash to be recovered. It's the same as stolen property. If you gave it to someone or spent it when it wasn't yours, it's still redeemable. Now, what do you have to say?
Look, Mr. Dollar, this won't do you any good. I'm no low-forehead job who got caught crawling in a drugstore window. I'm a college graduate. I've been in the business world for 10 years or better. I know what I want to tell you and what I want to keep to myself. And I don't want to talk about this, do you understand? And there's no way or no person who can make me talk about it. I took the money, I admitted that. I did a bad job of it, I was caught, I've confessed, and you've got me. And that's the whole story.
Okay. Have it your way, Lester.
Go away. Just go away, please.
Lester James was a tall, dark-complexioned man in his early 30s. His hair was black, straight, and closely cropped. His features regular. Not good, not bad. The kind of man you see every day on the street. Somehow, the kind of man I hadn't expected to meet. Expense account item 2, $1.35, cab fare. I went over to the apartment on 59th Street where Lester James had lived. According to the penciled note above the first door to the right of the entrance, Mrs. Anastasia Denovich was the manager.
Yes, what is, please?
You're Mrs. Denovich?
Yes, what do you want, mister?
I understand that Mr. Lester James lived here. Is that right?
Oh, yes. Bad. Bad. I hear he steals money, and that's bad.
Yeah. I'm from the insurance company, Mrs. Denovich. We're trying to recover some of that money if we can. Wonder if you could help me.
I fix dinner now for my son. He's come home from work. What I do?
Well, I want to know about Lester James.
What is?
The work, Mrs. Denovich. Did he drink? Gamble? Did he stay in nights or go out? Did he pay his rent?
You're a policeman?
Insurance investigator.
Oh, please. Sometime else.
Okay, it's important now.
I talked to Lester on phone. He said I don't have to answer any questions.
Well, you don't have to, but I'd appreciate it if you would.
My son home soon. All right, mister. I know these things. You ask about men who live here.
Well, look, how about his friends? Who visited them?
I know. I cannot say. No visitor.
Oh, is he a good tenant?
No trouble, like Mr. O'Sullivan on third floor, always drunk. Fine.
Did you ever meet his girl?
Girl?
Well, sure, his girl. He has a girlfriend.
No, I never see girlfriend.
How long have you known him?
5, 6 years, maybe, ever since he moved in here, this place.
Do you know how he spent his time?
Work. He work hard.
No, I mean besides working at the textile company. How else?
No. He poor fellow, that one.
How's that?
He still money true, but he poor fellow the same. For him, I feel.
Yeah.
Lester, he quiet and he think. I know he live up in that little room quiet. Think, he does all the time, he think. Oh, my son, Skinner, please, you go now.
Just a minute. I'd like to see his apartment if I can.
No matter. You bring tea back, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Denovich. The apartment Lester James had lived in was as dismal as the neighborhood. A tiny closet kitchen, a bed that came out of the wall, and a pair of grimy windows that looked across the court into another pair of equally grimy windows. The furniture was early 30s and threadbare. Among his personal effects, I found nothing of value. The apartment yielded no more information than James had. Expense account item 3, $1.95, dinner. I had it in a neighborhood restaurant called the 59er. A place where, I learned, Lester James had frequently eaten. The restaurant manager remembered him and liked him. A woman who ran a bakery shop across the street told me how he'd come back from the war in 1946 and had worn his uniform for a month until he got a job and could buy some civilian clothes. All in all, I was getting a composite picture of Lester James that didn't look quite right. Whatever he was, to the people who knew him casually, he wasn't a man who ever had any money to spend.
Well, hiya.
Hi.
No good, huh? Well, that's where it goes. We had some action here today, no?
Oh?
Sit down. Jim's preliminary hearing was this afternoon. The man from the district attorney's office took about 15 minutes to lay out the evidence against James.
Uh-huh.
And the public defender took about 3 minutes trying to get James to answer one question. What did he do with the money?
Did I miss anything?
No, not a thing. Wouldn't open up at all. Just said that he'd spent it.
Well,
Public defender about threw up his hands.
I'm about ready to throw up mine. When is the trial set for?
Sometime next week.
I'd like to talk to him again. He been moved yet?
Didn't go to the sheriff's office.
Somebody bail him?
He bailed himself. $200 he had in war bonds.
He left yet?
Won't get out till about 6. That's when the shift changes. You still want to see him?
Yeah, I'll wait. An hour later, when Lester James emerged from the doorway and turned right, I followed him, about a half a block behind. When he caught a cab and headed uptown, I caught one, stayed right with him. When he got out at the Empress Theater and walked around to the stage door, I was standing at the alley entrance. 10 minutes later, he came out and hailed a cab. Once more, I followed. This time, he went back to his apartment on 59th Street. I waited 15 minutes before I went in. James? James? James, it's me. Johnny Dollar. I got a couple of whiffs of it standing there in front of the door. The room was acrid, stinging with gas fumes. And Lester James was stretched out on the floor of his 6-foot kitchen. When I picked him up and carried him out, I didn't know whether he was alive or dead.
And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
30 seconds after I found Lester James, I called a police ambulance. And in a matter of minutes, an intern was working over him with a pull motor. There was no telling how much gas he breathed in or for how long a time the jet had been open. Hand me that. Thanks.
Swab.
Okay. You alive?
Maybe. Hard to say on these. That shot should cause some reaction.
Oh.
This your place?
No, it's his.
You know him?
His name is Lester James. I met him earlier today.
Can you give me that? We might be getting something here.
What, this thing?
Yeah. He'll be sick if... Oh.
What?
He's catching on.
Oh, yeah.
Let's have a little more. Getting some pulse. Respiration, too.
Will you make it?
Well, it depends. If he had a heart condition, it'll be tough. Nothing more we can do here. Let's move in.
Now, where'll he be?
48th Street emergency. Why?
Well, I'd like to talk to him when he comes around.
Better phone in first.
Oh, sure.
Well, that's the third one tonight. What is it, the weather?
Not for him.
You know why?
He's out on bail. Goes to trial on an embezzling charge pretty soon.
Oh. Well, be sure and call in.
Yeah, right. The investigating officers questioned me regarding the circumstances of Lester James's attempted suicide. I told them what had happened and gave them my business address for reference. After that, I went back to my hotel and had dinner. Then I went over to the Empress Theater. A musical show was playing there. And it had just finished.
I didn't quite get that, mister.
$1.
Oh, Mr. Dollar, what can I do for you, sir?
Between 6:30 and 7 o'clock tonight, a man came here to the stage entrance and talked to you.
A lot of people talk to me here. What man?
His name was Lester James.
No, I don't remember no Lester James.
Maybe he didn't give you his name.
You come here to see somebody? Is that better?
He might have, I don't know. He's about 5'11", weighs 175 or 80. Didn't have any hat on, raincoat, dark man. You remember him?
Oh, yes, of course. Him, yes.
You remember him?
Oh, sure, yeah. He's been around a lot of times. Lester Joe. I didn't even recognize that name first.
Would you mind telling me what he was doing here?
Well, he comes here to see Margie Cook.
That his girlfriend?
Oh, no, don't think so. She never sees him when he asks.
Who's Margie Cook?
She sings here.
You ever seen them together?
Well, don't know. I've never seen them together.
Is she still here?
What's that?
I'd like to talk to her. Is she still here?
Oh, no, Margie left. She finishes in the second act.
Could you tell me where she lives?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I can't tell you that.
Well, where can I phone her?
Well, I just can't tell you that either.
Look, would you do me a favor?
Well, if I can, what is it?
Would you telephone her and tell her my business and ask her if you'd see me?
Well, I suppose I can do that, all right, Mr. Dollar. Take a chair right there. I'll just see what I can do.
Expense account item 4, $2.65. More cabs there. This time to the apartment of Margie Cook, singer. She met me at the door with cold cream on her face, wrapped in a chenille dressing gown. Miss Cook?
You must be Mr. Dollar. Come in, please.
Thank you.
I didn't quite understand Frank on the telephone.
Frank? Oh, the doorman at the theater, yeah.
Yes. I didn't quite know what to make of. Couldn't be you really an insurance detective?
Yeah, investigator.
Can I fix you a drink?
No, thanks.
You mentioned something about a man named Lester James, Mr. Dollar?
Yes. Do you know him?
Well, no, I don't.
There's sort of a reservation in the way you say that, Miss Cook. You know his name?
Yes, I know the name. What's this all about?
Oh, just a routine investigation.
Are you sure?
Oh, yes.
I'm curious. How did you get my name? How am I connected with Lester James?
Well, that's what I want you to tell me.
Oh, first, about my name.
Well, James was at the theater tonight asking for you. I found that out from the doorman. And then I asked to speak to you.
Oh,
I understand James has been around there quite a bit.
nice. I really don't know how to tell you this. I've only seen the man once in my life.
Is that so?
Honestly. He's really quite impossible. Dear. This is very embarrassing to be asked about a thing like this by a complete stranger.
Well, maybe I can save you that embarrassment if you'll answer one question.
All right.
He ever give you any presents?
Yes.
What?
No. That cigarette case there.
This one?
Mm-hmm. And the lighter to go with it.
Uh-huh. Tiffany's.
Pretty empty.
And expensive. What else?
Well, let me think. Oh, that wasn't from him. Oh, that was.
What?
The lamp over there.
Uh-huh.
And the fur piece.
Could I see that?
I'm afraid I gave it away.
Oh.
I gave it to my kid sister who was visiting me a couple of months ago.
What kind of fur piece was it?
Ermine. I think that's about it. Except for orchids that used to come every night. A dozen orchids every night.
He sent them to you?
Mm-hmm. For about 3 months.
You only saw him once, and he gave you all these gifts.
Oh, dear. I know how that must sound. Look, it started about 6 months ago, I guess. I got a card in my dressing room one night asking me to dinner. It was signed Lester James. Well, I'd never heard of anyone named Lester James, and I tore it up. But every night after that, I kept getting the card, and pretty soon flowers, and then the lighter, and the cigarette case came. That's when I saw him. I didn't even dine with him, Mr. Dollar. We had one drink, and I told him I had a headache.
I see.
Gifts still kept coming, flowers, invitations, and I ignored them. I tried to send the things back, but I didn't know where to send them, so I gave away some, and some I've kept, and that's it.
Why didn't you see him after that one night?
Oh, he was so different than what I'd imagined. I mean, I'd had my share of stage door Johnnies, but this man was... Well, he couldn't say a word without stumbling. He had no poise, no sophistication, nothing. All he had was money.
I see. Well, he didn't have money either, Miss Cook.
What?
He worked for $72 a week as a bookkeeper.
But all the gifts, the things he gave me, sent me, he had to have money.
He's been stealing it to buy those things for you.
Why, for heaven's sake. That's why you're here. No wonder.
He tried to commit suicide a couple of hours ago.
Suicide? No. Oh, no.
I'm sorry I had to come to you to get this information. He wouldn't tell anybody what he'd done with the money.
Will he go to prison?
I'm afraid so.
Oh, but we had nothing. He was just a name to me.
Well, apparently you were something more to him. I spent the next 2 days tracking down the places from which the gifts had been purchased and ascertaining their retail values. Total, $2,780. I also learned from Margie Cook that Lester James had made appointments to meet her at various times at different expensive restaurants around town. She had never once kept any of these appointments. A check with the Waldorf, 21, the Stork, and several other places revealed that James had always made elaborate arrangements to entertain her. His restaurant bills, which were paid, came to $835. The florist bill, $680. Total, $4,295. Hello?
Hi.
Remember me?
Sure. Insurance man. What now?
How do you feel?
Okay. You saved me, didn't you?
I suppose so.
Why?
Well, for the same reason you'd save a man who was dying, James. You know what I've been doing?
What?
Answering the questions that you wouldn't answer. I met Margie Cook.
What?
My job, I had to.
Listen, you had no right to go to her. You had no right.
Look, it's the company's money you were spending on her. I had every right. Unpleasant as it may be.
And she knows all about me?
Yep. We took back all the things you gave her.
You dirty scum.
Look, don't get mad at me. Get mad at yourself. I didn't steal the money, you did.
Why didn't you leave it alone? What difference does the money make to you?
Nothing to me.
What do you want now?
Well, I didn't get all of it traced down. There's still $410 I'm worried about. Yeah. Here. I've got this much.
Yeah.
Can you remember what you did with the rest of it?
Pretty thorough, aren't you?
I try to be. Well? Oh, come on, Lester. You've got most of it. What difference does it make now?
You and your money. That's all it is to you. Dollars and cents.
Dollars and cents that were stolen. Remember that. What did you do? See her on the stage one night?
No. She was in the office.
Office? Your office?
Yes. Some fashion convention about 6 months ago. She was modeling some of our fabrics for them. The publicity people brought her over. I never saw anyone like that before.
You figured a little money would attract her to you, huh?
I heard that's the best way to do it.
Well, it's one way, but it's not the best way, Lester.
I pictured myself knocking on her door one night and saying, I'm a bookkeeper and I live on 59th Street. Why don't you come over and have a bottle of beer with me?
You know, she might have come.
What made you think so?
I met her. Up until the time I talked with Lester James in the emergency hospital, I had my doubts about love at first sight. But after I talked to him, I was convinced that it could and did happen. To him. I was sorry that he didn't know quite how to handle it. I was also wondering if I'd been in his shoes, would I have done the same thing? Johnny Dollar.
Oh, I was afraid you might have left town.
Well, I'm just packing up. Who's this?
Margie Cook, remember me?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I haven't been able to sleep thinking about that man.
Lester James?
Yes. What'll happen to him?
He'll go to prison.
Even with all the money returned?
Only half of that stuff's redeemable. Take at least, $2,500 more.
And then what?
Well, then it'll be up to the court.
I want to pay it.
What?
I want to make it up, the whole thing.
Look, Miss Cook, I know your motives are the best, but you're not responsible in any way for this man's actions. He just went...
$50. He's the first man I've ever known who actually went out on a limb for the girl he loves. I'm the girl and he's the man.
Are you serious?
Poor dumbbell. He doesn't belong in any prison. He ought to get married to some nice girl. I want to help him. You still there?
Yeah.
What's the matter?
Oh, nothing. Nothing at all. Expense account item 5, $28, hotel. Item 6, $37, meals. Item 7, $15.15, miscellaneous. Item 8, same as 1, transportation back home. Total, $151.22. Remarks: James comes to trial next week, and in view of Margie Cook paying back the money he stole, James just might get a suspended sentence. But, as always, that's up to the court. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
And as is the case with the Mr. Moto series, the other 3 Nancy Drew movies are available as a commercial DVD release. The Philo Vance movies with William Powell have always seemed pretty interesting just because I've seen Powell and the Thin Man, and these were made before that. But the studios have not made them commercially available, so just that one Philo Vance movie available. All right, well, that's it for today. I appreciate so much everyone listening. We will be back on Monday with Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator, and then join us next Friday for another episode with that man with the action-packed expense account. In the meanwhile, send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Give us a call, 208-991-4783, and follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.